Good evening, Cryptid fans. Man, we got a treat tonight from Oklahoma. I've been had some conversation backstage with Brian uh, Terrell, and I was making, we've all been over the years, growing up back in the late '60s, early '70s, of everything is Pacific Northwest. The more I learned about the eastern area here in southern United States, and damn sure Oklahoma, Missouri, Arkansas, Kansas. It is a plethora of cool stuff, man. A lot of information. And Brian, welcome tonight. We're gonna hear from him, and sounds to me like he's got quite a bit of stuff to unleash on us from Oklahoma and some other areas nearby him there. So, Brian, we appreciate you being here tonight. We'll check on the milkman who's still muted there. Turn your mute off there, sunshine. There you go.
I swear it's a circus today. I just every time I turn around, something's going. I actually got to go get a calf out of the pasture later when I get done after Mama gets done licking it off.
All right, man. Dollar bills landing on the grass. That's awesome.
Well, as long as it stays upright, we'll be fine.
That's correct. That's good. Yeah. Jeff is a circus. Yes, Black. Jeff is a circus.
Who said that? Was that Patrick?
No, Chad.
Wow.
Black.
I'll have to get in there.
Yeah. David, how are you tonight, buddy?
I'm good, Jerry.
Still got the whiskers going there, huh? It's getting thicker and thicker by the week.
Still going.
we got to do a close up on Brother Blaylock here. Yeah, man. Look at that. Look at that, man. We had little patches now. We're filling in good there, man. That's good. So
Brian's hair's trimmed up from some of the investigations I've watched.
Yeah, it really is. I got really sick over Christmas, and I was hacking up a bunch of crap. And when you have a beard and you start hacking up stuff, it just gets in there. And I was so sick, I was just like, I don't feel like messing with this anymore. And,
welcome to the glory part of Old Line Cryptids.
You get all that nasty crap in there, and if you got a really thick beard, you got to go to the sink and wash it out with hot water.
Now wait a minute, Beetlejuice always said save that guy for later, right? So
that's right.
It was a rough holiday, so
I understand.
I'm actually reviewing the audio right now from that time, and I was sick during that time, and I can hear myself coughing on the audio on here, and I was just like, golly. And I always put the audio recorder like at least 50, 60 yards outside of camp, but I can still hear myself coughing occasionally. So. And it shows up like a tree knock on the spectrograph. I gotta go look at it. So, I've been listening to a lot of coughs. So
there's a knock. Well, that's just Brian.
Yeah, Chris Reinhardt's on us again this week. Daggum him.
Yeah, apparently Reinhardt's doing Tuesdays again for some reason.
Okay, that's all right.
Who's that?
We'll just have to share the crowd. That's no big deal. But, anyway, Brian, we're just gonna tell us about yourself and what you do, and after you get all of that, just tell us what got you into this crazy world of Bigfoot. And from there, you can tell us all your experiences.
I guess all of them. Yeah, that might take a little while.
That's okay.
Well, I guess the best way, I kind of got eased into all this, I guess you could say. I'm pretty thankful that I wasn't one of those people that was just minding their own business, hiking along, and just had a Class A up front, face-to-face PTSD encounter, I got eased into it. And it all started, I think, with me when I was about 10 years old, and I found a track down at the farm. And it was half in, half out of the creek, but it was huge, and I didn't know what to make of it. And back then, I was reading all them, Tarzan books and the My Side of the Mountain and Davy Crockett books. So I fancied myself kind of a tracker, so I started, looking to see if I could find any more prints, and there just wasn't any. Well, it was fast forward, several years to about the time I was, 32, 30 something. I happened to see a track on a movie that was half in, half out of the water, looked about like the one I had. And it was like, it all came flooding back to me. It was like, oh my God, is that what, is that what I was looking at back then? And then I started realizing it's like, man, that explains a lot of the things that was going on. How once you come to the realization that these things are real and they're really out there, your brain starts kind of pumping out stuff and you start realizing, man, they've always been here. So, but anyway, fast forward, I was looking, kind of doing a lot of outdoor stuff. I was a hunter for many years. I liked to coyote hunt, deer hunt, did a lot of turkey hunting, whatever it was, if I could eat it. But at the end of the day, I would stumble on weird stuff, stuff that just didn't make any sense. And you keep finding stuff over and over again. You're like, well, how in the hell did this happen? But fast forward to 1996, I was actually in Oklahoma City, and I had my first, I guess you'd say, introduction to Bigfoot proper. I was at a grocery store, and I was there doing some work, and this guy came in and was telling some people that there was two lady joggers down by the lake that had seen a Bigfoot, and it took off running. And I was like, I was like, what? It's like this is crazy, And I was finished up, got my paperwork signed off. So I got in my service truck, and I was like, hell, I'll drive over there. So I drove over there, and sure enough, kid you not, there was cops out there talking to this homeowner, and I was just like, you got to be kidding me. The cops really got called on this deal. So anyway, I kind of drove to the north because apparently this thing, ran north and jumped over Highway 66 and ran into the woods, and I was just, my brain is churning, I'm just like, what in the hell? And, well, anyway, fast forward, I was drinking a beer and watching the news that night, and they came on the news and they actually mentioned it. They said something about two lady joggers at Overholser Lake, and saw a Bigfoot that ran and jumped into Stinchcombe Wildlife Management Area. And I'm about to spit my beer out. I couldn't believe they were talking about this on the news. And of course, they did the whole, like they always would back in the day, but they were still talking about it. And so I was, and I'm sitting, and I'm like, well, I saw the cops. I know this is legit going on. So I decided I was going to go check that area out. And I went over there, and back then, now Stinchcombe is like almost like a park. There's like hiking trails, and there's even a parking area. Back then, you had to jump the fence, and but I jumped the fence and went back there and was walking around, and I was sitting there thinking, damn, if this wasn't in the city limits, this would be a great place to hunt. and I was actually thinking about doing a little bow hunting back in there, but that would have been a horrible idea looking back. But at the time, I was thinking about it. Well, I actually found tree structures while I was in there, and I did not have, this was 1996, man. I don't think I discovered a computer until at least 2008. I mean, until about 2008, I thought computers were a passing fancy or a fad that was going to go away. And well, anyway, so I had no idea what I was looking at. I'm sitting there looking at these things, and I'm seeing them. I'm just like, how could this be? There was no saw marks or nothing like that. I do remember that. Because I remember when I first saw them, I thought they were something that, maybe some Boy Scouts had made. Back in the day, they used to have this, what would they call it, pioneering or something, where they would make the things out of logs, the bridges and stuff. And I thought at first maybe this is what I got going on, but there was no saw marks, there's no lashings, no nothing. And then I thought, well, maybe it's a bunch of tweakers, and because maybe they came in and they laid up a bunch of sticks and then they wrapped some old tarps or something around it. Maybe they were sleeping in there, But if that was the case, they have like 10 times more sticks than they needed, right? I mean, they didn't need that many sticks. I mean, you take 3 or 4 sticks, line them up, throw a tarp over it, you're good. You don't need a bunch. So I kind of walked away from that scenario, scratching my head. I had no idea that this tree structure thing was tied in with Bigfoot. Now, I went out there a few more times over the years, and I never really found anything. And which at the time I didn't know what I was looking for hardly, And I think everybody struggles when they first start. But long story short, fast forward a few years, I ended up having a couple of encounters with dogmen. And at the time, I didn't know what they were either. I just called it the wolf dog. I had no idea what else to call it. And I'm glad that it didn't stand up on its hind legs and, show me its hands or flip me apart or anything. I mean, I would have probably crapped myself, but it stayed on all fours, thank God. But when you've got a black wolf looking dog that's the size of a steer, you're like, well, that thing ain't gonna live long, I mean, I honestly thought it was some kind of mutant, or a wolf dog with like gigantism or something. I thought it was a freak of nature, So I figured, a 30-06 round from a rancher was going to take it out.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I didn't think it'd last very long at all, but eventually I ended up figuring out what a dog man was after listening to podcasts and stuff like that, and then doing some Google searches. But you end up figuring some of this stuff out, and it all kind of comes back to you. From when you're coming from the outside, coming into this stuff, there's such a vast amount of knowledge and information that you just got to consume, and it takes a while. There's so much to learn, and it just a lot of people don't know where to start. They don't even know what the right questions are to ask. And that's kind of what started Red Dirt Cryptids. Is I decided that it was a damn shame that there was nobody in Northwest Oklahoma that people could report their sightings to. And so, I was kind of a Neanderthal, if you will, with computers, but I knew how to start a Facebook page. So I started a Facebook page. Got that up and online, and now that took forever to get off the ground. And then maybe, I don't know, a year or two later, we started doing some filming, and we started taking and putting together, some of our video films and patching them together and putting them on YouTube. And it started out as just a really great place for me to store a lot of video evidence, and it is, because technically it's like free storage for your videos if you do it right. Now I keep everything backed up on a external hard drive, so because now I've got so much of it, I'm scared to lose it all. But it kind of morphed into what it is now. We go out usually at least once a month to do research. Sometimes there's been a few months that we've been out three times in a month, and that's when I started getting in hot water with my wife. But she's kind of a trooper for the most part. But you got to get out there and you got to do the actual work. Now, on top of that, we maintain a database with information in it. I've got, I think, 386 case files right now for Oklahoma. And honestly, it is severely lacking. Putting information into the database is a whole lot of this. And it's a pain in the butt. I do get a lot of that done during the summertime when I'm off work, because you can call me a weenie, but I don't do as much research in Oklahoma during the summertime. Too many cottonmouths, too many ticks, there's a whole lot of, it gets really bad. The bugs, the skeeters,
Common
everything
sense.
else. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure you guys got that too. You guys got the mayflies and stuff up there, don't you? So
Yeah. You get them more out on the river.
yeah. I had my first mayfly experience about a year ago down at the LBL, and I was just like, "What in the hell is going on here?"
I know.
They get bad. You get into a pile of them. Whew.
Yeah, I was absolutely amazed, and I ended up going into town to get some ice, and because this was during the summertime, and I asked one of the girls at the Quick Stop, I'm like, "What the hell's up with these bugs?" Because they were like all over the parking lot, and they were up on the windows, and I was like, "This is a biblical plague, man." She's like, "Oh, it's just mayflies, you know." And I'm like, "Okay." So I went back and kind of Googled them, and I was like, "Damn." So, but anyway, you live and you learn. You get out there and you do the work, and you try to find evidence, and you document it, and you try to put it out there for people to see. Not that you're going to convince anybody, but you know, I kind of, this is going to sound selfish, but I kind of do it for me. I know that even people that are knowers, a lot of people that are knowers, if they're vested in all this and they got kind of got a bad attitude, you could have some really good evidence to put forward, but they're going to be the first ones to throw rocks at you, because it didn't come from them. So, I just try to document my evidence for me and for the people of Oklahoma so that, they can get a fair shake whenever it comes to all this cryptid stuff, because we've kind of got a stigma that kind of follows Oklahoma. People are taught in school that Oklahoma and Kansas is the Great American Desert. I think that's what they called it whenever I was a kid. And in places it is. If you get up in the Panhandle, it's called no man's land for a reason. But and the joke up there is there's a pretty girl behind every tree. Problem is there ain't no trees.
There ain't no trees. Yeah.
But they've got a whole bunch of jokes that because it is no man's land. It's pretty harsh. There's not a whole lot up there. But if you follow the rivers, which we've got a ton of them, we've got well over 100,000 miles of rivers in Oklahoma. I can't even name them all, and they cut right through the state, and it's hard to get around them. And the habitat is here. Now, when you get up into northwest Oklahoma, we've got a bunch of open areas, but you've still got tons and tons and tons of woods and deep forests, old forests. They're growing up around all these rivers. This weekend we were out walking around in some cottonwoods and some cedars. These cottonwoods were like 4 foot around at the base. I mean, they're ancient, probably, they're probably growing before 1900. They're beasts, and it's a jungle out here. People just don't realize it. But anyway, so we've got the fauna, we've got the habitat, we've got the food sources, and thank goodness, they're here. You just kind of got to pay attention and be a little picky. If you go down to southeastern Oklahoma, they're almost everywhere over there. They're a little bit thinner, but still very prevalent in northeastern Oklahoma and southwestern Oklahoma, even though it's the weirdest habitat you can imagine. It's there's a lot of them down there too. And we do have some in northwest Oklahoma, but there's not near as many. And you can figure they're going to be real close to the rivers. But there's a lot of them here. And I don't think, I think their populations are on the rise. We keep getting more and more reports, and it seems like we're getting more and more suburban reports where they're actually coming into town, raiding dumpsters and stuff like that. And it doesn't take you long if you know where to look and you know where the food sources are. You can almost predict where they're going to be at.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's, junkyards, I mean, city dumps and stuff like that. I'm pretty sure that they get raided on a regular basis.
Yeah.
We throw away massive amounts of food.
If I remember correctly, there was a Indian casino out there somewhere that I think
More than one.
Coonbo and a few of them had been to, where they had footage of them running across the parking lot.
Okay, well, so there's been more than one.
Yeah, I know that.
We there was the Lucky Star Casino in
Yeah.
Concho, Oklahoma. That's on the it's about 3 or 4 miles north of the North Canadian River, and they had on security camera a Sasquatch coming out of a field, an open field, and
Yeah.
walking towards the camera at night. It walked under a parking lot light and walked up to a grease trap, one of those dumpster like
Yeah.
one that, and it was reaching down in there, and
Yeah.
and then I guess it left. And when they compared the video footage to the light pole, it was 10 feet tall.
Mm-hmm.
So now, supposedly the footage disappeared. Supposedly, I've heard about 400 rumors about that, including that. What's his name? Matt Moneymaker bought it. I mean, to me, I don't know what to believe. You have a good sighting like that, and there's going to be a lot of stories. But the general consensus is that once the news media found out that this had happened and contacted them about doing an interview, they kind of the tribe went into damage control mode, and they figured out that very quickly that they were in the casino business, not in the Bigfoot business, and that Bigfoot was bad for business because they actually back then it wasn't even a casino, it was a bingo hall, and their primary revenue was little old ladies. So you kind of got to realize that little old ladies are scared of Bigfoot, and so it's not a big
They're scared of Milkman too.
Yeah, are they? Oh, danger is real, man. But no, seriously though, I mean, they supposedly the footage got collected by the tribe, and they put it up, or they disposed of it, or whatever.
If it's the same place, I think, Jerry, I think Mary Fabian was there when she went.
He was at one of those places. Yeah.
Yeah. Our friend Mary Fabian that runs the PA Bigfoot Project.
I know who she is. Yeah.
Well, she was there with Coonbo and a few others they traveled over there, and they were actually in the parking lot one night working on somebody's truck, and Mary and somebody else were looking across the parking lot and actually watched one run.
Yeah, I think I heard an interview once where they were talking about that.
Yeah.
Now, don't quote me on this, but I think that might have been the one down in Anadarko, because I know that there's been reports of them getting in the dumpsters down in Anadarko too.
Yeah, I can't remember. I have to ask her. I don't know if she's in here tonight.
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen her yet.
I haven't seen her yet.
Well, she would know better than me. I mean, there's literally so many stories coming out of this place that it's really hard for one person to keep up with. I mean, I try to write this stuff down. I just recently, in the last, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, started actually writing all this stuff down. I mean, I can't even remember half the stories and where they came from or where I heard them. And it's like, and I've got a lot of regrets. I wish that I would have been writing this stuff down a long time ago. Just a video. YouTube. Well, it might have had something to do with the fact that the Bigfoot got killed there. So, and there was guns involved. So YouTube doesn't like guns or,
No, no, no
Yeah.
pew pews.
Yeah.
you'll see,
Yeah,
Unfortunately.
you'll see us in our videos wearing guns and carrying guns, but I don't pull them out and flash them around and talk about them because, I don't want to piss off the YouTube gods. So
oh yeah, I know what you
it
mean.
don't take much.
They don't seem to get too hurt if they see you walking around with like one hanging off your hip or something. But you start pulling one out, then it's
Yeah.
unless you're a YouTube gun channel, then apparently it's okay.
Yeah, I don't get what's the difference? I mean, I can't even sell an airsoft rifle on Facebook now. Just,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it is a great story. The siege of Honobia, as it's known, or Honobia, is quite a story. Are you guys familiar with that?
Yeah.
Yeah, sort of.
A
Yeah.
little bit.
Little
One of the things that I find interesting about that is I think that went down in 2000, and so it's been a while since that whole thing went down. Was it 2000? It was 2000, and that's right, because I went to the first festival in 2008. So, well, anyway, it wasn't the first. That was my first one. You've been branded, Don. Well, I don't know. I just try to stay out of the hot water.
Yeah.
But anyway, one of the most amazing things about that whole story is the one thing that nobody in that town or in that area argues about is whether or not it actually happened. I mean, there is nobody that down there in that area that says, no, that's a bunch of hooey. That never happened. That was all a bunch of, he shot a bear or whatever. There's none of that. Everybody in that town is either cool with him shooting the Bigfoot and they understand it, or they're just totally pissed at him because he shot one of their pet Bigfoot. And they think that, it was a big misunderstanding and it's just everybody's got an opinion about it, and everybody is very sensitive about it down in that area. But the one thing that they all agree on is that there was a Bigfoot killed in their front yard. And I think that's kind of amazing because, when you sit down and you think about all the stories you've heard, there's almost always some locals that come out and say, oh yeah, I know that guy. He's a drunk, or, he's tweaking out on meth, and the only thing that I can say that was even remotely negative is there was rumors going around that the Humphrey brothers were poaching, but I mean, I kind of come from the old school philosophy, like if you're eating it, it ain't poaching, but whatever. I guess
Their freezer was also getting broken into.
Right. They started out, they had a freezer in a remote building out back, and it got broken into. I think in the beginning it didn't even have a lock on it.
Yeah, but then they put a lock on it. I think it ripped it off.
Then they ripped the door off. They got a new freezer, put it on the back porch, and then it broke into that one too. And then they got another freezer or something, and they moved it inside the house. And that's when they started trying to come in the house. And this was during a time when there was a drought going on, and so there was probably a shortage of resources. There was, Matt Moneymaker thinks that they had something to do with the fact that they were hunting the area, and they started to associate gunfire with food, and that's a decent theory. I do believe that, some of our wildlife management areas during deer season, I think they leave and then they come at night, they come in and look for gut piles and stuff like that.
Looks like why are your gut piles gone the next morning after you leave them out? Because I can do that here. Come out the next day, there ain't nothing. It's all gone.
Yeah. Well, and you could argue maybe it was coyotes, maybe it's something else, but if it's a coyote, they'll try to drag it around, and you'll see where that's been dragging it all over, and fighting over it and stuff. But if you come back out there and it's just gone, well, there you go.
I've left them in spots back here where I go on, and it looks like something just picked it up and carried it off.
Yeah. Coyotes and any type of canines and even cougars they'll drag stuff like that around, and you'll see all the drag marks. So, but who knows what the truth is? I mean, I'm nobody's an expert, and I'm dang sure not psychic. So if that was the case, my wife wouldn't have to text me and tell me to bring home creamer. So
It's interesting. There's no video. Like nobody put a camera up to try to find or catch it doing something. Or
well, there's all kinds of video out there, but I mean, you take like for instance the Freeman footage and stuff, and then there's a whole bunch of stuff out there.
No, I'm talking about the particular freezer incident.
Oh, I don't know that. Well, you think about it. I mean, they could have possibly spent a bunch of money and bought some of that kind of stuff. But back in 2000, that stuff wasn't cheap. So
cheaper than a new freezer.
Yeah. And I don't even know. I mean, back then cameras weren't as good and easy to come by. And
I mean, I'm sure they knew what they were dealing with, right?
Yeah, I think they did. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure they had a pretty good idea once the
yeah.
There was a certain point where they were very well aware of what was going on. As a matter of fact, the story is that the brother that lived there, his wife was living there during about 3/4 of it, and I guess she went out to get in the car and was going to go somewhere while she was strapping the kids into the baby seats or whatever. She had a Sasquatch growling at her during the daytime, right there close to the car. And after that, she was just like, to hell with this, I'm going to go stay with my mom. And she packed up the kids and she left. So, ooh, ouch. So, dang.
Poor Gary. Poor Gary. Prayers up for Gary.
Yeah.
Prayers for Gary.
It's been a rough couple of weeks with losing people in the hospital. Yeah. Good Lord.
Yeah. So, but anyway, yeah, the Honobia thing is one of the more famous stories that have come out of Oklahoma. We've also had, a series of other stories that came out. If you go just north of Honobia, there is a town called Tallahena, and in the 1970s, they had a rash of Bigfoot encounters, but they didn't know what to call it. They were calling it the Green Hill Monster. And Don's right about that. The investigation got cut short. Yeah, that is kind of funny. But anyway.
I remember that story too, and I still laugh about that.
But don't you worry. Matt Moneymaker solved the problem over the phone. So, but anyway, but the Green Hill Monster at Tallahena, there's still reports all over around Tallahena of Bigfoot, people having encounters and stuff. That whole area down there is a hot spot. If you go up north to what we were talking about, Kansas offline, there was a series of Bigfoot reports right along the Oklahoma-Kansas line, north of Bartlesville. They used to call that the Noxie Monster. And that there was a ton of reports. There were newspaper people coming in. And as a matter of fact, there was a set of tracks in the snow one year that crossed a series of open fields that was 2.5 miles long. It was in the newspaper and documented at the time. And this whole thing was going on for a long, long time. And the funny thing was it all kind of came to an end because the sheriff of that county came out and said, well, we found the culprit. It was a 16-year-old kid with a monkey mask.
Mhm.
Well, and so here's the funny part. I about imagine when something like that happens, there is an influx of people that want to come and see what's going on. The rumor is that there was all kinds of people from Tulsa and Wichita that were coming in to hunt this monster. They were trespassing on people's land. Somebody even said there was a coon dog that got shot, and there was just a whole bunch of problems. Strangers in town, people that didn't know, jumping fences, walking on people's land, looking for this thing. They wanted to shoot this Noxie monster. And I'm going to go ahead and table my theory. I think that the sheriff got tired of it all, had somebody buy him a monkey mask, and they blamed one of the local boys. Probably gave the kid some money too. So here, you're going to take the blame for this, kid. Here's your monkey mask, and then it was over, and they went back to normal.
Yeah, because the local teenager's tall enough to pass for one of those.
Yeah, there was a lot going on back there, and there's like a whole series of stories. But to this day, there's still Bigfoot reports that have come in. There's a guy in Bartlesville. Him and his son had an encounter a couple of years ago, and I'm still got to go up there and interview him. It's like I'm behind on everything. I'm just, I don't know. It's difficult running all this stuff down. But, we also, there was a smaller series, we had, the Kremlin Beast, and we've also had like, I'm trying to think of another one. There was a series of little ones around the Oklahoma City metro area that was happening years and years ago. But the Oklahoma City metro area is getting bigger and bigger and bigger every year. So it's kind of hard because the places where these encounters happened back in the day are now suburbia, whereas they were out on the outskirts.
A lot of the stuff around here is like that now, too.
Yeah. Yeah. We even had, I think it was back in 19. That sounds like my Pomeranians.
That's
Min
David,
pins.
that's David's miniature pincers.
Oh, yeah.
Guard dogs on duty.
Yeah. I've got 2 Pomeranians, but they identify as teacup timber wolves.
I've got
awesome.
I've got an old lab and a beagle wherever he's hiding at.
Probably
get into something.
Probably sleeping, huh? But now we had in 1972, we had a situation in Lawton, Oklahoma, which is southwest Oklahoma, and there was a whole bunch of people were eyewitness to this. There was a dog man that was running around Lawton, Oklahoma, and it was running around for a couple of weeks. There was at one point there's a military base there, and it's called Fort Sill, and the rumor is that the Army was even looking for this thing. And there was a whole bunch of people that saw this thing and put a guy in the hospital because he saw it and it gave him a heart attack and he ended up having to go to the hospital. Whole bunch of eyewitnesses. But the weirdest thing about it was, and I'm still trying to wrap my head around this, is it was wearing blue jeans. A set of cut-off blue jeans.
Wow.
And I'm not sure.
I feel like I've heard this story before.
It's called The Lawton Werewolf. You just go to YouTube. There's a couple of people who have done some YouTube videos.
Yeah, I think I've heard about that.
This was a real thing.
The blue jeans was what jogged my memory because I remember hearing about that.
Yeah. Now, not all of the reports had whatever.
The lower
We keep this all G-rated, But yeah, that was a pretty crazy story. There's a whole bunch of like little local legends, but what it really boils down to is it's just Bigfoot and Dogman reports that are just they're all over, and people are seeing them. Sometimes they come up with names for them, but I think we live in a time now where almost everybody is aware of the existence of Bigfoot, and they call it by the name that a terrible name, but there is one name for it finally now, thanks to the internet. So,
I've got a creepy one for you, Brian. You ever get
yeah,
you ever get reports of pale crawlers?
few and far between, but unfortunately, yes.
We got one here, not far from us.
Really,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. There you go. Yeah, 1971. Yeah, it went on for a little while. So I have taken a few reports of, and it's kind of hard to classify those things.
Yeah.
I'm not exactly sure what to call them, but a lot of people, what happens is they report these white, emancipated humanoid things, hairless, and it seems like the facial features and stuff kind of change a little bit. I had a story that this guy in Tulsa reached out to me, and he was him and his wife were self-proclaimed night owls, and I guess they lived in suburbia over there in Tulsa, and they heard a whole bunch of sirens and stuff running around outside. So they went outside out in the front yard, and they were trying to figure out what was going on. And they realized that they could get a better view of what was going on if they went out in their backyard. So they went through the house and came out in the backyard. And that's when him and his wife both saw this creature that was in their backyard hiding. And it was like down on all fours, pale white skin, skinny, sick looking. And it kind of went behind their storage shed. And he was, freaking out, and rightly so. I think his wife got scared, and about that time, it come out from around the other side of the shed, but it was a man. And it just basically turned around, looked at him, smiled at him, walked over to their gate. They had one of those little gates, jimmied the lock on the gate, went out, walked out into the front yard.
Wow.
Yeah. And that's shape-shifting. And that disturbed me. But the interesting thing about it is that both him and his wife were in agreement on what they seen. Like 95% of the time when I get reports, one spouse has encountered something, the other spouse thinks they're crazy as hell, But in this particular situation, you got two spouses that saw the same thing, and they're backing each other up on it. So it's kind of interesting. Every once in a while, you do get into that kind of situation. So I've also taken a couple of reports from north of Concho about a skinwalker looking thing that was shape shifting off of Highway 3 and Highway 81. And the lady who wanted to remain anonymous, well, thank you. She reached out to me, but she also decided that it was her duty to let the Canadian County Sheriff's Department know about it. And you know how whenever people talking on the phone and they'll put their hand over their phone and they'll talk to somebody else, but you can still hear them. Well, when she called into the Canadian County Sheriff's Department and told them that she'd seen some kind of white creature, the lady on the dispatcher or whatever lady said, "Hold on a second." And she put her hand over the phone and she said, "Hey, we've got another one."
Wow.
So yeah. I mean, you think about it, that's a hell of a random story to make up, And this lady was so upset by what she saw that she created a fake Facebook profile. Yeah, you're right about that, Ken. Um, she made a fake fake Facebook account just so she could reach out to me anonymously and tell me what had happened.
Damn.
And yeah, well, she was a local business owner there in Oklahoma City, and
Oh, yeah.
she did not want anybody to find out who she was because and to be honest with you, the business that she's in, very customer related. It probably would have cost her money.
So you found out who she was later then?
Yeah, she eventually told me. I gave her my word I would never tell anybody who she
Yeah.
was. So,
But
and I
she
still
was high
haven't to
enough
this
up
day.
that she didn't want to.
No, she wasn't taking any chances.
Yeah.
And she's a smart lady, but she was very creeped out about it, and I went out there and kind of looked around the area, but whatever it was long gone. But you do hear that we get a lot of these pale crawlers down south along the Red River, by the Texoma Lake. There's been a rash of them down there. Most of the stories that I've heard about that has come from Jeremiah Byron's show, but he's put me into contact with a few of those people. So, but yeah, they're out there, but thank God there's not a lot of them. I mean, that's not something I really want to encounter. So there is a few. Yeah, if somebody called me and said, "Hey, we've seen this pale crawler out here 7 or 8 times. We think it lives over here," I'm probably going to pass on that because that's some mojo I don't want carrying around. So
No, thank you. Nope, 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 nope.
for sure.
So, I mean, sounds to me like Oklahoma keeps you busy enough. Have you been into like Kansas some, or Missouri,
Yeah.
or Arkansas, or Texas?
Well, I got a phone call from a guy who up in Ark City, Kansas, which is kind of a big little town. And I went up and interviewed him, and he works with me now. His name's Scotty Rodemaker. He goes and he'll go out and talk to some of our people that call in or reach out to us. And but it started out real simple, and I made a little video, and I think I titled it something like Ark City, Kansas Bigfoot Encounter, something simple, and threw it up there. And what do you know? Next thing I know, I'm getting reports, and then very quickly his video became the most popular video I had at the time. It was my first video to break 5,000 views, which was a pretty big milestone for me at the time. And but anyway, next thing I know, I'm getting all these calls from people, random people, and from all walks of life. And they're like, "Yeah, I had one lady that lives right there in Ark City who saw one. Got her dog had to go pee in the middle of the night, and so she walked out in her front porch, and there was one standing underneath the street light right there in town. Had another 16-year-old kid reach out to me, and I guess he was driving on this road that was just on the outskirts by the Walnut River. He saw one. We've had several calls come in from just the Ark City area, but then eventually we started getting more and more and more reports coming in from Kansas. And a couple of years ago, I had a guy, or Scotty, sent me a video, and he says, "Hey, you need to watch this video. It came out of one of the local lakes over here, southwest of Wichita." And so I watched it. He goes, "You better be in a room that's completely dark when you watch this." And I was like, "Oh, great." So I watched it, and I could see something in there, but it just, it wasn't very compelling. And it was kind of a buzzkill at the time. And then fast forward a couple of years, I'm getting older, getting wiser. I'm learning tricks and starting to figure out, somebody sends you a dark picture, you can go in there and you can mess with the sharpness and the contrast and stuff. And you can really bring some of these things in the dark out, And I was sitting there thinking, man, I wish I'd have known this years ago. And then it hit me. It's like, oh yeah, that video that Scotty sent me. So I had Scotty. I was like, hey, you still got that video? He goes, oh man, I'll have to look for that. So he finally found it and he sent it to me. And I went through and I did my voodoo magic on my iPhone, and sure enough, you could see it. And I was shocked, and you could see the thing actually get up and walk away. And I think there's I don't even think there's 4 seconds of video, but it's actually not bad. And so I arranged an interview with the guy, and we went out, Scotty and I did, and we interviewed him, and he told his story, and then we showed, I made a longer video with all that. I mean, it's legit. I mean, it really is. And if you break it down and you look at it frame for frame, if you thinker thunker it, this thing is walking with its knees bent. It's leaning forward. It's huge. And, like when they walk, they kick their back feet up extra high and stuff. This thing is doing all of that. And I thought, damn, this is going to be a kick-ass video, and I released it and it's like, nobody cares.
Funny how that works.
What video is that?
It's called, I accidentally videoed Bigfoot.
I'll have to go back because I'm still looking at your stuff. I gotta.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I believe that, man. San Antonio. Well, okay, that's a little far for me to go. That's about 9 hours south of me.
Wow.
And Texas that's also an interesting.
Oh yeah, Texas has got their fair share of it. I would hate to go pound for pound with Texas because they've got a lot of cryptid activity.
Yeah, I spent a week hunting in Central Texas years ago, and let me tell you, the terrain out there, that'd be the perfect place for stuff to hide.
Oh yeah,
I mean, trees out there really aren't that big where I was, but there could still be something.
Well, you get down in the northeast corner.
Yeah.
That's all swamps, bayous, bog. I mean the big thickets down there, Sam Houston National Forest,
Lone Star Trail.
And to be honest with you, I've got. I don't have any what you would call buddies or whatever that work down there. It's almost like they're in a completely different zone.
Yeah.
It's all I can do to keep up with Oklahoma and to dabble in southern Kansas and maybe a 30-mile perimeter around Oklahoma into some of these other states. I mean, I'm behind. I mean, at any given time, I can tell you right now, like this is my book that I write all this stuff in. I mean, I am so far behind on case files and crap that I could probably spend 3 or 4 days just putting in reports.
Yeah.
I probably got at least 25 reports right now that I need to do the paperwork on. And on top of that, if you want to see, I figured out how to find
25 that you haven't done the report.
There's at least 25 in this book. Yeah. And now let me get this straight. There's an unlimited amount of reports coming out of Oklahoma. If you go to we've got some Facebook pages, like one's called Strange Oklahoma. Okay. There's
I
another
think
one.
I've seen that one.
Yeah. There's another one that's, it's called Northwest, or it's called Indian Territory, Oklahoma Strange Sightings. And then there's a couple of other ones. There's like 4 big ones here in Oklahoma, and it's just weird stuff. And if you go to their Facebook pages and you just there's a search bar up at the top, and you just punch in Dogman or Bigfoot or Sasquatch, it just starts propagating. I mean, I could literally turn this into a 40-hour-a-week job if somebody paid me. I mean, they're there. It's happening.
I'm sure someone would pay you.
I don't know. I'm
Well,
still waiting for Trump to kick in there.
The government.
Yeah, actually, I started some crap the other day. So I took one of those AI generated bot things, and I made a short video clip of Trump, and he's talking about how when he gets in office, he's going to put his executive order in place, and he's going to start government-funded Bigfoot research based out of Oklahoma. He's going to put me in charge of it, and we're going to be hiring people all over the Mid-South area. We're going to have assets, and
it's going to be huge.
Well, the first time I put it out, I just put it out there. And I mean, all hell broke loose. And very quickly, I had to pull it down. So I added this thing in the end that said hashtag beware of AI.
You can send that to us. We'd love to see it.
Isn't that amazing how people would just buy right into something?
Yeah.
You should know better, but that's the way people are.
There's some researchers from Maryland that we would be involved with, but they would probably want our heads on a pike if we.
It's not unusual.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know who you're talking.
Yeah.
Well, it was. I thought it was going to be funny, and I incorrectly assumed that everybody would know it was a joke. And
people can't take jokes, Brian. That's just it
was kind of interesting to me. One of the guys on my team, his mom called him, and God bless her. She's an older lady, and she saw it on TikTok. If you want to see it, I've got it. I think it's definitely on my TikTok channel. But anyway, I've got a few other goofy. Oh yeah, don't get TikTok. But I've tried to get on TikTok. To be able to reach out to the kids and the young people. You learn a lot whenever you start looking at your YouTube data. And apparently, my main age category for the people that subscribe to my channel are like 35 and up. There's no young folks watching my channel.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Brian, because I'm 35 and I don't think there's anybody in the chat that's in my age group.
Yeah.
At least nobody that follows this channel.
Right.
What are you trying to say?
Yeah, right.
Old men?
No, I'm the youngest one, and it just seems to be everybody above me that seems, I know people that are in, but
well, them kids, how they gonna see a Bigfoot when they're doing this?
That's right.
I can tell you some stories about people not being aware of things.
I'm a school teacher, so I could write a book. So
I had to help. I had to get one of our cows out of the barn that had expired, and
hey.
I had to put it in the tractor, and haul it up the road to the other farm. And one of the neighbors was out of the tenant house, buried in their phone, And I drove right past them, never even saw it. So
I'm not surprised.
And-
Yes, I do, Leanne. I have an eject button, just so you know.
Well,
Jeff, I
apparently the
apologize.
government didn't believe him.
I apologize, but Leanne wanted to see the eject button. So
Who
go
did?
ahead, Brian.
What? You guys have an eject button? We need one of
but that just goes to show you how much people don't pay attention.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, a guy drives by your house with a dead cow in it. Don't see him. I walk up behind these kids every day. You know, I walk up behind them. They have no idea I'm standing there. They're sitting there playing their little things or whatever. They're totally clueless. I mean,
Now, what do you teach, Brian?
I teach robotics and electronic automation. So
That's cool.
we call it career tech up here.
How many schools actually do that? Because I don't know too many around here that even.
Well, Oklahoma is probably one of the leaders in technical trade education in the country. We have 29 state-funded schools,
Really?
at least 29.
Man,
in our state, you know, most states you just have like what we call common ed, K through 12, and then you have higher ed. Well, we have a complete third branch, and it's career tech.
man.
And yeah, and higher ed don't like us because they think we're getting all their money. So, but it is
Man,
what it is.
that is interesting because I don't really see much of that. Like at least in Maryland, I don't.
Well,
When did they start doing that? Was that?
well, I think we started hot and heavy in the 70s because this
We had
school,
shop class and that kind of stuff, but
well, yeah, we did
foundations of
too.
technology and.
But it was in Oklahoma, it was kind of a slow thing. I mean, we had woodworking and mechanical drawing in junior high and stuff.
That's what we
But
did.
yeah, eventually all that stuff kind of went away. You know, I tell my kids about being in wood shop in junior high, and they think I'm full of it. They don't believe me.
I probably still got some of the stuff I made in shop class somewhere.
Yeah, we had that in junior high. So
we even built box traps.
Really?
Yeah. Like
now that's actually kind of cool.
Yeah.
My kids wouldn't even know what a box trap is. They wouldn't have a clue. They wouldn't know what a dog-proof trap is.
What are those?
So
how many robotic Bigfoots are walking around Oklahoma schools?
I don't know. We've got some pretty woolly kids that they look feral.
You should take them with you when you go out to do investigations and just let them.
Actually, so I have a rule, right? I was incognito. Nobody knew what I did on weekends till about 2 years ago. It might be 3 years ago now. And apparently one of the ladies in the marketing department heard me on a podcast. And it's like everybody knew.
Yep.
Well, my kids found out about it, of course, so they had a bunch of questions and everything. But I have to have a rule. They all want me to take them out squatching. But, I tell them, once you graduate, 3 years after you graduate, if you're still interested at that time, call me and we'll talk about it. But as you guys are probably aware, there is a lot of people out there that they have a skewed viewpoint of what going squatching is. They get these kumbaya campfire things and scary stories, and you hold the flashlight up here and you tell the story. But that ain't what it's really about. It's a lot of walking. It's a lot of work. Hell, half the time we don't even have a campfire because campfires make too much noise. And I mean, hell, I won't during the summertime. I never have a campfire. We just pull our chairs up. It's too damn hot,
And you live
And
in Oklahoma.
yeah, I mean, but they don't. They have this skewed viewpoint of what it's really about, and that they don't have a clue. And because squatching and doing field research is work. I went out last weekend for an afternoon. We probably covered 5 miles. One of the guys actually found a print, and I wasn't me. I didn't find it. It was Chris Ramsey who found it, and I look over there and I see him over there, and I got one guy down on the ground with his knees. The other guy's laying on his belly in the grass, and I'm like, well, something's going on. I get over there. Sure enough, they've got a print, and it's got hair in it. So it wasn't castable, because it was in the grass and in the leaves and stuff. But I did get a Scaniverse video of it. You guys know what Scaniverse is?
Not really.
No.
Okay, you guys need to look
Is that
this
like
up.
LiDAR?
Kinda. It's an app that you can get on your phone, and it is a 3D imaging map. And
I
you
do know what that
basically,
is.
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
And if you don't have that, the Scaniverse is the best for iPhone, but they don't have a Scaniverse for Android. But Android,
There's a lot of Android people here, so
Yeah.
yeah, the Android one that you want is called, let me find it here,
now there's somebody in chat you need to talk to.
Polycam.
Flat
You got
Rock.
to talk to Flat Rock. Flat Rock's in Alabama, and he's got all sorts of. He researches from his house.
Yeah, yeah.
He's got
Not like an armchair one, but like it's happening.
yeah,
at his house.
Yeah.
like
right.
they're outside of his house. He's
Yeah.
got
Yeah.
all sorts of stuff, and
Yeah, that you better play the game right.
you
Like,
should
Yeah.
talk to him because we've got friends in the chat that actually went to visit him and saw a Bigfoot looking at him from the bushes out the back door of his house while he was cooking dinner.
wow, that's crazy.
And it stayed there in the brush watching them for a couple hours.
That's what they do,
And
they
they just
want.
look out the window once in a while and it was still there. And
Android, Leanne, right here. Android.
yep,
Proud Android owner.
right
Well,
here.
you're looking for the Polycam app. But
Polycam.
I got an iPhone 6.
I think that'll still work,
It still works.
Yeah, I've found tracks, Brian, and I was up in where we were in the mountains. You couldn't keep enough. I mean, we had cell chargers because we were back off trail, back there turkey hunting for like 4 days, and you couldn't even keep the solar chargers enough to. You would think solar chargers, you'd be able to keep enough battery to power your cell phone. I don't
Well,
know what.
when some of these phones, whenever you get out in these remote areas, they burn up a lot of juice trying to find a good tower.
Yeah.
So if you just turn that off, they'll last a lot longer. But if I do that, then my wife can't track me on Life 360. So, I get in trouble when she doesn't know where I'm at. So
I know
but-
I have one of those now, especially if I decide to go out looking by myself. So
yeah. Yeah, my wife doesn't like me going out by myself anymore. Apparently she thinks I'm getting old or something. I'm like, I'll just get a bigger gun,
Yeah.
That's the best way to compensate for old
Because
age.
you guys out there, I'd be more worried about running into a dog man and having problems with that than having problems with a Bigfoot, really.
Well, now we do have a lot of dog men, but we have a lot more Sasquatch. We would
Have you got tracks of dog man? I haven't really looked at any.
well, actually, we do. But it's not confirmed because but so right now we're actually working on a Bigfoot documentary, and we're kind of we're fixing to wrap that up.
There
I
you
don't
go.
know anything. Yeah. Well, but we what was we talking about? You squirreled me.
We were talking about dogman tracks.
Oh, so
We've got
20%.
reports of those within 3 miles of here.
Yeah. Well, we don't. 20% of my case files are dogman, and of course, there's a number of case files that could either be dogman or Bigfoot. Nighttime Class A encounters, didn't get a good look at it, saw it moving by, that type of stuff, where you didn't get a clear identification of which one it was.
Yeah.
So it could be as high as 25%, but we don't know for sure. But it's definitely at 20%. But we've only come across one that I really believe is definitely a dogman, because you got to realize that, probably, I'm going to speculate, at least 70% of dogmen that you see running around, they're not the great big ones. And I think the same thing's the same with Sasquatch. I think that most of the ones that people actually see
are the juveniles.
They're the juvies. And I think the big ones, they hang back. I think they do, like perimeter, protection. They're probably back in the way. Because, you think about it. If you was to see like a 6 foot tall, even a 7 foot tall Bigfoot at night roaming around in a dumpster, as long as it wasn't like really, really muscular or anything, you'd probably just think it was a tweaker digging in a trash can.
I mean, seriously, that's what I think happens a lot of times.
Yeah, I think they get misidentified. And the little ones, they can come in, they can raid the dumpsters, they can bring food back for the big ones.
Yeah.
And and the big one, he's back there, waiting. If something goes horribly wrong, he can come rushing in, but most of the time people don't. And I think that dogmen are the same way. I think that most of them are, under 350 pounds.
Yeah.
And I think that from a distance, people can't tell if that's a dog or if that's something bigger.
You know what else could be? People could think with a black bear or something, in a dumpster, and just glance at it and think, "Oh, there's a bear in a dumpster."
We don't have, that's true, but we really don't have a whole lot of.
There was a guy years ago that I remember hearing about that was researching down in Florida, and he kept getting reports of Bigfoot around dumpsters at this strip mall.
Yeah, I'm not surprised.
So he went and he camped out in the area and kept checking those dumpsters. And one night he went over to the dumpsters and there was actually a Bigfoot in the dumpster.
Was that a video? I think I saw that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember.
And it startled him, and it jumped out of the dumpster.
We had a.
And he actually pulled his 45 out, I think, and fired a round off into the dumpster. Like the thing startled him so bad that it startled the Bigfoot too, and the Bigfoot took off.
Yeah, there was an encounter similar to that, and just on the outskirts of Oklahoma City at that Stinchcombe Wildlife Management area, there was a donut shop right there on Highway Old 66 right there. And there was a donut guy, time to make the donuts guy. And he was middle of the night sometime, went to take the trash out to throw it in the dumpster. And he goes out there and he approaches the dumpster, and there is a baby Bigfoot in there, like 3 or 4 foot tall.
And want to throw the donuts in it.
Yeah. I mean, you think about it. I mean, what better way to get your sugar fix, I mean, well, and I guess this thing jumps out of the dumpster, scares the guy to death, and then on top of it, there was a Connex storage thing there, and I guess at that point, Big Mama comes running around the thing, snatches up the baby, and throws the baby up on her shoulder and takes off running and jumps across the highway and into the woods. And this was just a couple of years ago. And well, I'd say 15 years ago. So it's not like it was forever ago. It was since 2000 for sure. So anyway, I did a little piece on that in my Stinchcombe documentary that we did in that one. I interviewed a few people in that one, and that was one of the things that we talked about. But yeah, I think that kind of stuff happens a lot more than people realize. And you just have to be in the right place at the right time. And what I've been telling people, one of the biggest tools that I've been trying my best to implement is time-lapse cameras. If you could take a time-lapse camera and set a time-lapse camera up on a dumpster, especially one that is got a light over it or something, you think about it, you could probably eventually catch it. I think we've got tons of video footage of these things on security camera. It's just nobody knows that it was there.
Now,
Nobody
does that
checks.
time lapse have IR?
No, that's
Exactly.
why I recommend it.
Yeah.
It all it does is it just snaps a photo. I usually set mine for every 5 seconds, and
They're probably
eventually,
cheaper to buy.
no.
Now,
It's only good for one thing, but you just the problem with suburbia is you can't let people see it or they'll steal it. But yeah, I think eventually somebody's going to stumble on something. I think that these things get caught on video all the time, but nobody ever checks security footage unless something got stolen. And eventually, I think somebody's going to realize that they have a Bigfoot getting in their dumpster.
We've got some motion activated security cameras here around the farm, just like where people drive in and stuff. And on the
those are good for keeping them away.
Yeah.
But you're not going to fool them with those. So, but I'll tell you something else too. So I think it wasn't this one. It was the other one. I had this one here set up. It's all camoed up. This is one of those bassoons. And I had this thing strapped to a tree last summer. And you know how everybody's always trying to figure out, how do these things know? How do they see them? How do they avoid them? Well, this was summertime. It was like 85 degrees, right? And we're walking down this trail and I'm running my thermal camera, right? And all of a sudden up ahead, I see something glowing. And at first I'm like, what's this? What we got here? And I'm trying to do my thing, trying to figure it out. And then I realized, whatever it is small, and I'm thinking possum or something like that. We get a lot of that kind of stuff. And as I got closer, I realized it was this camera.
Really?
This camera was glowing hot in 80-degree ambient temperature. It was glowing red. Now, if these things can see infrared, infrared is thermal. Thermal is infrared. They're the same thing. So if they can see infrared, they can see something glowing and warm. Now, if this thing's glowing warm, strapped to a tree, they can see this thing from a long ways off. I saw it through the thermals all the way down. It was like sticking out like a sore thumb. I think that they are not, because of your regular trail cam, it doesn't put off a beam of infrared light like everybody thinks it does. Okay. It uses infrared sensors. A lot of them are passive infrared. And passive infrared is just picking up heat or infrared energy that you're putting off. There's no beam like you see on the movies where the sexy girls trying to go through the beams, and stuff. There's nothing like that. It senses heat walking in front of it, and that's what trips it. Okay. And I don't think that I think they're just seeing these things glowing. I mean, it's almost like there's that's like there's a chem light hanging in a tree or something. That's what it would look like to us, but that, we can't see it because we don't see infrared.
Right.
So if you're going to use stuff like this, even a trail camera, if you're smart, you'd wrap it in something, like at least say, for instance, if you was to countersink this into like a berm on a bank of a river or something like that, to where it's in a hole, but if the front's facing out, at least they wouldn't be able to see it as they were walking up to it. They would have to walk in front of it before they got a chance to see it.
You cover it up long enough.
Yeah, I mean, hell, if you could take a wooden box and put it in a wooden box with the front was open and strap that to a tree, you'd have a better chance because the wooden box, they wouldn't be able to see the heat. I mean, you gotta think about it from a scientific point of view. With the type of work that I do, I know how sensors work. I know how infrared works. And because, it's in a lot of the sensors, our proximity sensors and stuff like that. And, our PIR sensors, they're very simple in how they work. It's just your average Joe doesn't know. So audio.
Oh, I forgot to tell everybody.
I believe that.
This morning, River Morris fell and broke his ribs, so he is in the ER.
Oh man, he's not good. Don't be telling him any jokes for a while.
Yeah.
Mm.
Got a bad track record here the last 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, he messaged me this morning and said he was going to go to the hospital as soon as it was morning because he lives in Australia and I don't know, they do things differently there.
Yeah.
Oh.
Poor Leanne will get that word infrared typed in properly.
She's
having a fit with her phone.
She's right.
An Apple phone, right?
She's right. Yeah, she's probably an Apple user like me. No, but now seriously, though, what she was saying about picking them up on their audio and stuff. We've been getting a lot of really interesting audio down here in the last 6 months, and a lot of it we're going to be kind of showcasing some of our audio that we've captured in this documentary that we're releasing. And
now, as far as like thermal, you probably got some thermal captures, don't you? I haven't. I need to.
Yeah, I got it. Definitely going to be glued to his channel here in the next few weeks. Start catching.
Yeah, I really haven't caught anything that I would say is convincing. No, nothing that I would put forth as evidence, but it's coming. It'll happen eventually.
I did watch one of the ones with some of the nests you guys have found.
We found more this weekend. So part of Oklahoma's problem is we don't have any, authority figures on Bigfoot in our area. We just got a bunch of good old boys that are out there doing the work, and in the past, if we wanted to get somebody to, authenticate, blah, blah, our findings or whatever, we had to turn to people, from the Pacific Northwest, and I don't think a lot of those people in the Pacific Northwest, they have a vested interest in staying on top of the subject matter that, and so we never felt like we could get a fair shake with those people. Had a couple of guys from Oklahoma that they submitted probably one of the greatest foot casts that I've ever seen from southern Oklahoma, and
there's the monkey wench herself, Mary Fabian.
Yeah, Mary Fabian. There you go.
And
we have a question for her.
You should reach out to me because what you're talking about is I've got evidence for that too. These things are coming up. They're hanging out by my audio recorders. They're throwing rocks or sticks and stuff at my audio recorders. We've figured out that we can actually, I can believe that a pine cone or something might fall from a tree and hit my audio recorder. It is possible, maybe even twice a night, but 20 times in 6 hours.
Wow.
No,
No.
they're sitting right there and they're bored.
Yeah.
The flinky stuff, because they've
All
been
right.
assigned the crap duty job of being a sentry on the stupid humans and keeping an eye on us. And they're
Hey,
bored.
Mary.
Do you conceal your audio recorders, and how do you do that?
I'm always looking to upgrade, but right now I'm using the Tascam. I've got a couple of the DR7s and one DR5. And I think if I get any more, I'm going to go crazy because I don't have enough time to review all this audio footage. But I have figured out how to I can do it faster now that I'm using Audacity. But
I have Audacity, and I cannot figure out how to bring up the like the timeline below to show like a spike or something. One of these days I'll figure it out.
One of these days, if we set it up, and we'll do a Zoom meeting, and I'll walk you through it.
Okay.
It's
all right. I
not,
just asked Mary where that casino was.
I was going to. No, what I asked you is that if you
Mary.
conceal them in something, I use. It'll show up.
What
that
is
virtual
it?
background.
It's disappearing.
Just a bag. Audio recorder down inside a zipper closed bag. I got one like this too. That one shows up good.
Nice.
I don't have any.
Yeah, it was near Anadarko. That's
Yeah, I thought it was Anadarko.
Gold. She said golden something.
Yeah. There's a lot of activity down there, and that casino is just north of a river. So, and an Indian school to boot. So.
Oh yeah.
Well, there's stories on reservations too.
Yeah, there's a direct link. There's something definitely going on. The area of Oklahoma that has the least amount of reports is the one that doesn't have any reservations on it. So I'll let you do the math. So I've been to Purgatory. So found it by accident one day.
I think that's how everybody finds it.
Yeah, I was actually doing some off-road, and I was going down through there. It's like, holy crap, I know that place. So, but no.
Back to that
my audio
bag
recorder.
thing. Do you have like a specific thing that you hide them in, or
so my audio recorders, I don't hide them from Sasquatch, because that is an exercise in futility. I hide them from people.
Yeah.
So I've got these camouflage dry bags that I put them in that they kind of clip, and I always put paper towels in there.
Yeah.
Because if it starts to rain or something, they'll stay dry, but condensate will form.
Yeah.
So you got to have paper towels in there to help with that. But then I'll have an extended power cord, and I'll run it out, and it goes down to a plastic 5.56 ammo can that I get at Harbor Freight that has a 12-volt battery in it. Then I've got it wired up where it runs a USB thing, and I can get probably about 4.5 days out of audio on a 64 gig card.
That's a lot to listen to.
Yeah, and but I'm looking at investing in another type of audio recorder that I'm not done researching, but it did mention that you could set and you could program it by linking your phone to it and what time of day to turn off and what time to turn on. So if that's the case, then I wouldn't have to record all the daytime stuff in areas, because Oklahoma.
That's like those Wi-Fi cameras that the game cameras you can.
There's a lot of there's a lot of new stuff that's coming out. Everything's getting cheaper. Hell, at this point, I can afford some stuff. So, we're winning as far as I'm concerned. But I'm looking at a couple of new things that I'm not really ready to talk about yet. But we're looking at investing in some stuff if the money ever shows up. So you never know. The sad part is I think I'm probably going to have to buy a new vehicle soon. So
Yeah.
that might put a dent in it for a while.
I try to be as cheap and as I can and as far as gear because I never know if I'm actually going to use.
Yeah, I've wasted a lot of money on gear that didn't work the way I wanted it to.
Yeah.
And if I ever write another Bigfoot book, it'll probably be about all the money that I wasted on stuff that didn't work.
So you have a book.
Well, yeah. There's actually a story behind that. So I told you that I was able to go under the radar, right?
Yeah.
And but then when they found out, it wasn't too terribly long before they asked me to teach a class about Bigfoot. And so I did. I actually got suckered into it. And as a teacher, you got to have curriculum, if you're going to teach a class. And so I ended up writing a book about basic 101 cryptozoology in Oklahoma. And then I copyrighted it.
Oh, that's right. You did a presentation on that. I think I
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I did it right. It's not a big book. It's more of an introduction to the different.
Are you still selling those?
Yeah, you can buy them on Amazon. So
what's it called?
Oklahoma Cryptozoology 101.
All right. Well, I got something else I got to add to my collection.
Yeah, we have a few cryptids down here that a lot of people don't, like Deer Woman and Little People, which I think little people are everywhere. I just don't think people realize they're everywhere. But Deer Woman is very prevalent in Oklahoma. But I'm not
that is
really
an odd one.
I'm not even sure she qualifies. She's more of a spirit than
yeah.
So
I think the more you get into this, you realize there's a lot of spiritual, dare I say, demon-like stuff that you know.
Don't be getting all Southern Baptist on me now, throwing that demon word on there.
So, I'm Presbyterian. I don't.
As is the joke we have around here. It's like any Bigfoot and anything else. It's like to Southern Baptists. It's the devil. It's a demon. So
come on, redneck. Ask some questions.
Put him on the spot, Joe.
Yeah. So I have one. So what's your thought on like the origin of Bigfoot and Dogman and all that?
Well, let's get specific here. Are you talking about Nephilim or what?
No, just your general.
Well, I'm not very popular because I'm not going to say that they can't be Nephilim. But when you start talking about Nephilim, I think that the last thing that we need to be worrying about is whether or not Bigfoot is Nephilim. I think we need to be more concerned about whether or not we are part Nephilim, because according to some of the books that were left out of the Bible, the Nephilim and their offspring can never be redeemed, and we were the original targets of what they call the seed wars. The Nephilim were. They were targeting us, trying to destroy the line of Adam. And so as far as I'm more concerned about, am I a pure descendant of Adam? Do I qualify for forgiveness? And am I, do I get the gift of grace? I believe I do, but this whole Nephilim thing, I think there's Nephilim DNA in dogs and cats and us and Sasquatch and everything else. I think everything, because the Bible says that all flesh was corrupted. And so the way I look at it, all flesh is all flesh, so that kind of cancels everything out.
Yeah.
So I don't really see that as being a thing. Now, these things have been around for a long time. There's a lot of reports, and Native American stories go all the way back, not all.
That's an indicator right there. The Native Americans didn't
Yeah.
make up stuff. So
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
and there's really, to the best of my knowledge, I don't think there's any tribes that don't believe in Sasquatch. They all got different names for them.
Exactly.
Some of them like them. Some of them are scared of them. Some of them, try to keep them away. Some of them are cool with them, but all of them know that he exists. So, yeah.
yeah, that's what scares me. Somebody out there blowing one of those shofars that.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that they've been around for a long time. The Vikings, they wrote about having encounters with them in their journals. You read about some of that stuff, and some of the earliest dogman reports in North America actually came from Oklahoma. We used to have in the late 1600s, there was a bunch of Mexican people that was coming up into Oklahoma back before it was actually part of the United States, and they were running sheep and stuff like that. And they wrote about the lobosomes in their
I've
in
heard
their
that
journal.
name before.
Mhm.
Yeah, and they talked about being in fear and have to watch out for them, and we've got reports of dogmen going all the way back, before Oklahoma was even, part of the United States, let alone a territory. So they've been here forever. Alexander the Great supposedly captured dogmen in battle and made them swear allegiance to him. And then there's the whole St. Christopher thing. And, I mean,
Cynocephaly.
yeah, I mean, and here's the thing, knowing the Catholic Church the way we do today, I just can't see why they would have a dog-headed saint unless he was dog-headed.
That's
Well said. Well said.
I
that
mean,
was
they're
always
on,
an
on
interesting
everything else, they have been uber conservative, but that one thing, so I they've always been here. I think they go way back. I think they go back to the beginning. I just don't. I think that it's foolish on our part as people to think that we know everything. It's lazy for us to just. We got a really bad habit of being lazy and just looking to our experts and just saying, well, whatever they say is the truth because they're
right there.
the experts. But the truth is our experts don't know crap. If you break down like all the DNA studies and stuff like that, anybody that is really in the know about DNA and the study of DNA will tell you that DNA research is in its infancy. Let alone 10 years or 15 years ago when Melba Ketchum did her study. I mean, it is still in its infancy. Okay. You got all these doctors. They can't cure you for half the shit you go in for. All they want to do is throw pills at you and make money off of you as you're dying. They're experts. They don't know what they're doing. They don't know everything. We don't know. We don't know everything about anything.
It's like ADHD medication, when I was, and still to this day, like my kids got ADHD. And I just had ADD. They want to throw pills and
yeah. When I was a kid, we didn't have a name for ADHD. We called it dumbass, and we didn't have Ritalin or anything. They just beat the living crap out of us, and that usually kept us in line. It was fear and terror were our medication back then.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, nowadays as a teacher, every kid that comes through my classroom that has a penis thinks that they have a disability because they have ADHD. I'm like,
Yeah.
you're male. Tell me something I don't know. I knew that the first when you walked in, I could tell. I could check the box, male. Okay, you have ADHD. I mean, it's just every single one of them have this,
I'm
and they
sure
think
most of us are still under that category.
yeah, they honestly think that by having ADHD that they don't have to learn anything. It's like a get out of free jail card, and I'm like, man, I'm sorry, but here's the deal: it's carried you real far up until the point where you graduate, and then so guess what? You graduated. Nobody cares about your disability anymore. You got to make a living. So surprise, we'll pull the rug out from under you, and you can knock your teeth out on the steps going down the graduation platform. I mean, that's life right now. And these poor kids, I feel sorry for them, but this is our experts, this is what we're dealing with. We don't have any experts. Jeff Meldrum is the closest thing we have in this field to an expert. But I think if you sit down and have an honest talk with him, he'll admit to you that there's volumes that he doesn't know.
Mm-hmm.
Volumes.
Yeah.
And every time you submit a sample to Jeff Meldrum, he compares it to what he already has. If it does not fit into then it's not really admissible. It's not something he can work with. It's not something he can, I was emailing Dr. Meldrum for a while, and I asked him if anybody has ever submitted a Dogman print to him, and his answer to me was, Dogmen do not exist. And I just let it go because I respect the man and I respect what he does and I respect what he's done for the community.
Yeah.
But part of me, the smart ass part of me, wanted to say, you sound just like your other professors at your college that were criticizing you. It's kind of an interesting concept, but
it seems like they all have different. They just I don't know.
Basically, they've convinced everybody that they're the experts.
Yep.
That's what's really going on. Now, there are people out there that they have wisdom and they know some things. Yeah, well, that's very kind. But there are people out there that know some things and they've seen enough and they've seen repeated behaviors over and over again. But the truth is I don't think we're anywhere near where we should be to be able to say, Bigfoot do this. 90% of the time. We have no idea.
And I hold a lot, what I consider, quote unquote rednecks that have been in this way longer, that have been looking into it. I hold them at higher esteem as far as researching than most people that are, professional doctor, whatever.
Well, and the other thing you got to realize is in ways your rednecks.
There he is. There's a redneck that's just entered the chat.
Yeah. Your rednecks in ways are more credible than some of these experts because the experts, they have a dog in the fight. They have books that are out there. They're making money off of this. And right now they're in control of the narrative. And as long as they're in control of the narrative, the money flows, right? Mm-hmm. And so they're less likely to do anything that would disrupt that flow or unhorse them as the expert, And then you get into the human factor, the pride, where they just can't seem to want to admit that they just don't know. They got to have all the answers. And guys, beware of anybody that has all the answers, because
So do you think they're pushing like a grade 8 theme with that too?
I do.
They are,
I
and I
do.
think there's an agenda behind that too. If now I don't know, they did the same thing with the Native Americans back in the day.
Mhm.
They came in, they took their land, and they tried to paint a picture for the American people that Native Americans were less than human, and they used that to justify taking their land and not treating them civilly and everything. So I think there's something similar going on because I think they're concerned about what's going to happen whenever we do find out about these things, and whenever it does finally come out. um, I think there's going to be pro bono lawyers coming out of the woodwork to work for free just to make a name for themselves to represent the Sasquatch people. And they're going to be fighting for everything for land rights and everything else. And it's going to cause pandemonium, because, um, yeah. But it's just you guys remember when COVID first hit, and we always knew that we could have a big disease and that people would get sick and people would die, but we were not able to predict that we were going to run out of ass wipe and have problems, with all the stupid stuff that we had. Well, I think Bigfoot disclosure is going to be a lot like that. There's certain things that we know are going to probably happen, but then there's going to be like a whole bushel of stuff that's going to come out that we never even thought was going to be a deal, a problem. And I think we're going to get bushwhacked by a lot of knickknack stuff. And I think the
Yeah.
government is they're probably suppressing this information, and I think that is probably good for us in a trickle down effect. And I
Uh-huh.
think it's definitely good for the Sasquatch people because if if all the idiots found out that they were real, they would immediately there would probably be a bunch of them that go straight out in the woods trying to shoot one. And so
That's the one thing that concerns me is
yeah, I'm not in favor of disclosure, to be
now.
honest with you. I think it would be the worst thing that ever happened to them. So,
Yeah.
I agree.
And
yeah.
imagine the amount of people that would disappear.
Well, yeah, the 411 stuff, I think about 90% of that is humans, but there is probably a part of it that is they crossed the wrong cryptid on the wrong day. Yeah, I will admit that. Some of the stuff is just so super weird, like the folding of the clothes and the taking off of the boots and stuff like that. I'm still trying to. That
Yeah.
smells more like little people stuff than anything else to me. Um,
When you find the guy's equipment, 15 miles away from where he disappeared,
yeah,
and it's, on somebody's property next to a fence.
yeah. I
And
don't
you
know
wonder,
how versed you guys are on little people, but
not
that
really.
well, um, they they can do things that twist reality.
Hmm.
And it's uh, there's not, how I told you earlier that there's really no tribes that don't believe in Bigfoot. There aren't any tribes that don't believe in little people either, so they know they're real. We get a lot of reports of them over here, but they're tied to the Native American people, the tribes,
Yeah.
and so they kind of follow those. So if you live in an area where there's no Native American presence, you're probably not going to have a whole lot of
Yeah.
them.
And right there, Mary just said, what was it? The little people reports in Western Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I think they're everywhere. I just think a lot of people don't realize what they're seeing.
Yeah.
We also have something right across the river here in like the area around Lancaster County, and you've probably heard of this one before. Maybe you haven't. The Alba Twitch.
Oh, that's a mouthful.
It's a basically a miniature Bigfoot.
Yep.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
I've had reports of dwarf Bigfoots.
it comes from an old
Wow.
German named Apple Snitch.
Apple
Which-
snitch because it takes apples from the trees. Stuff. That's
Huh.
where they're. That's
Well,
that's how they were
that
discovered.
sounds familiar, right?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Huh.
Makes you wonder where all those apples disappear to sometimes.
Yep.
Right. Yeah.
I've been watching a bunch of stories on YouTube about the native stories on the little people and stuff. It's very interesting.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
that's
it's they're they can be very they can you're probably best off leave them alone, because you got to treat them with respect, but even with respect sometimes you're going to run across some that have attitude, and the ways that they think are different than the ways that we think, and so you don't necessarily want to have a whole lot of dealings with them, because misunderstandings are probably, it's not a matter of if you have a misunderstanding with them, it's when, and you don't want to go there. So yeah, experts. I love making fun of the experts, but you know, we do need people like Meldrum, you know, to bring, you know, stuff to the people. And you know, Jeff Meldrum, as much as you know, he hurt my feelings, you know, not that I sound like one of my students here, but you know, he kind of hurt my feelings with his closed-mindedness about Dogman. But he has done a lot of good for the community, you know, and the men that whose shoulders that he stands on today. We need those people, and you know, to be honest with you, I wouldn't hesitate to run something by him. So. So anyway, what else do you guys want? What do you guys got? Anything else that's unique up there?
um. Well, you ever heard about Goat Man?
Yeah, we actually had a couple of reports of those, but the general consensus is that they were misidentified. But I don't know. I haven't actually myself personally talked to any Goat Man eyewitnesses, but we did have some from southwestern Oklahoma trickling around. I'll just assume leave them up there up in the
Yeah.
northeast.
There's
What?
there's a story about what there. Well, there's several stories about it, but there's been I've found encounters on online of people in Maryland, you know, encountering the Goat Man. Supposedly, one of them even shot one.
Wow. Hmm. That's
I
creepy.
don't think a 40 caliber is going to do much.
Yeah. Yeah, you need more. And you need to, if you're going to do that, you need more going around.
Well,
So,
one of the stories there's been so, you know, a snallygaster. Jerry just put that in the comments.
oh wow, that's goofy sounding. So,
Well, that's been around probably since, I would say the stories about that have probably been around since the 1700s, 1800s. There's books on it. I need to read more into that so we can do some more stuff on Maryland cryptids. But basically, what they're describing almost sounds like either a dragon or something like a pterodactyl,
we do get those occasionally. I
or
think
maybe
I have
like a what's the word I'm
Thunderbird.
looking for here, David? Thunderbird. Yeah, Thunderbird.
Yeah,
Well,
we
I
do
don't
get a
think it's
few
a
of those.
Thunderbird.
Yeah.
The flying cryptids that we get down in Oklahoma, we get them, but they're not as prevalent as Dogman. They probably make up about 5% of my case files, and we do get the pterodactyl type, you know, which I saw one once, I think, at night. Although I didn't get a great look, you know, roadside encounters of any type always leave you wanting more.
Yeah,
You're never
the flying cryptids are really that's
well. Now, playing devil's advocate, a pterosaur or pterodactyl is the only cryptid that we have a fossil record already in place for. So we know for a fact that these creatures at least existed at one point in time.
Yep.
well, it's like Loch Ness monster.
Yeah.
And there have been reports in the Chesapeake Bay of what they used to call Chessie.
Yeah. I've heard about that. I'm not really sure what to make of that, but I will say this though, and I've got a part in my book that I was talking about where a lack of reports from a certain area can actually be a form of evidence. For instance, almost all of the Loch Ness monster plesiosaur type, creatures that get reported are basically from a certain point north, like where the glaciers ended back at the Ice Age. You go north and you get those reports. Down here in Oklahoma, we have a ton of lakes, right? I couldn't even tell you. They say that Oklahoma has more waterfront acreage than Florida does because of all of our lakes. And you would think that if seeing these Loch Ness monsters and stuff is a figment of people's imagination, alcohol involved, drug related, or just plain flat ass crazy, right? If that's the general consensus of it. But if that's the case, then why do we not get any Loch Ness monster reports from Keystone Lake or Grand Lake or anything like that? Now, most people don't know that all of the lakes in Oklahoma were basically built and engineered in the 1950s and 60s. But if it was just drugs and meth and everything else, then we should be getting these hallucination reports here in Oklahoma. We've got the waterfront property, right? But we don't have any of those. Nobody's reporting Loch Ness monsters in Oklahoma. So what does that tell you? A lack of evidence proves there's no that tells you that it's not drug related. It's not a hallucination. You get my drift?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean,
I just had a friend in chat there, and I'll see if I can get Jerry to pull it back up. But he thinks there's a river near here called the Elk River, and he thinks he possibly saw a baby Nessie in the Elk River. And close to that's an area where some people we know research, and lots of Bigfoot activity, multiple size, tracks and all sorts of stuff out along there.
Yep.
So maybe it goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think all of this stuff is connected in ways, but I don't think that we are at a point where we're ready to make the connections. I think we're just we're like a bunch of little kids. We don't really understand everything.
If people really had a grasp on the of what's out there, no one would ever go in the river or the woods.
Yep.
Yeah. True.
And I think that's why they keep a lot of it silent.
Well, there's money involved in it, There's a reason why the LBL people don't like, Bigfoot stories and Dogman stories. It's bad for business, and it kind of goes to show you that's what's important for them. So, got to keep that money flowing.
I think that's what a lot of it boils down to, is why, Bigfoot's never been, brought out.
Oh, it's a hell of a conspiracy, keeping all that under wraps.
Yeah, you're right, Greg. A lot of people wouldn't go outside.
Yeah.
So, Brian, speaking of the pterosaur reports and stuff, have you had any where they had a long tail with that poof ball at the end, like the diamond shape?
No, I don't have any of those. Most of ours do not have a tail reported with them. I have had a few, other flying cryptid reports like the stereotypical Thunderbirds, and I've even had something that you could call an owl man down by Marlow and Durant.
What about Mothman?
Well, the owl man would probably be the closest thing, but as far as that, no, not really. We'll leave that to
And we're
the
not far from Jersey,
religions.
so Pine Barrens, Jersey Devils.
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you guys ever get any reports? People still seeing that today?
I haven't heard of any recently. We just had a couple from New Jersey on a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and they researched the Pine Barrens.
Yes, they do.
They've also researched some areas in Maryland that have found a lot of Bigfoot stuff.
Down on the Eastern Shore, yeah, Pocomoke area, which is a BFRO mentioned place that they were sending they were sending some people in. I'd say this was probably within the last 5 years. They had gotten a report and they were supposed to be sending a team in there. I've heard nothing or seen nothing of it since, so I don't know whatever comes.
I did see a video years ago about a lady that had an encounter on the outskirts of the Pine Barrens and with that thing, and she had hoof prints in the snow up on her roof, and of course, there was an army of skeptics that came out and said that she was full of crap and it was all a hoax, and it's so funny to me how quickly the trolls come out. I think that back in the olden days, they had men in black that would show up and threaten you. Now I think there's government contractors that are just professional trolls, and their job is to monitor everything, and they're the jackasses that get in there and they post stuff like fake, this is bullshit, blah blah blah, and it's like, okay, where's your evidence? Why do you say it's fake? Why do you say it's a hoax? And then they'll get in there and they'll say, oh, this has been proven to be a hoax, and blah blah blah, and it's
hey,
like,
Brian, Mary had a question. There it is.
I've been twice, and we actually have we may have a trip coming up soon. So, but we don't talk about where we're going until after we've been.
Right, sure.
Gary, was it the 1700s when they started getting reports of Snallygaster? I think
it goes way back.
Yeah, Snallygaster goes way back.
Maybe 1800s, 1800s, something like that.
We need to do some research and do a show on that one night.
It definitely got to be researched more. But,
yeah.
Don't you guys have frogmen up there?
Not that
I've heard one story of somebody possibly seeing a lizard man.
Yeah, lizard man. Yeah.
Yeah.
Heard of that, but the Snallygaster and the Dueo,
which is what they call Dogman in Maryland.
Dogman in Maryland.
They have a Maryland name for it.
Oh, I didn't know that. Oh.
And they supposedly butted heads quite a bit back in the 1800s, whenever. So that's how far back the two subjects go, if they are.
And the story about the Goat Man was that he was a research scientist at the Beltsville Agricultural Center that was doing some sort of research with goats and modified himself, and then he was carrying around people would see him carrying an axe around, which is weird because you listen to a lot of stories about that and you hear the axe thing.
Wow.
That's I think there's one in Kentucky where they've talked about that.
Wow. Yeah, we really don't have a whole lot of oh, hey Pyro. We don't have a whole lot of those, and I'm grateful. But sometimes I think it's very I think creepypasta may play a part of some of this stuff. It's hard to say, how much is real and what's really not. I would encourage everybody to be very careful about what you put in here. Some of that stuff can be very, very entertaining, but at the same time, it's fiction. And this is what I tell people: if you put fiction in here, 5 years from now, you will not remember if that story was fiction or true. And so, if you make it a habit, you're polluting your brain with fiction. So stick to nonfiction. And the Loveland Frogman. Yeah, she's right about that. I just heard about that. I wouldn't want to have an encounter with one of those.
It's a frog. How bad could it be?
You kiss that frog, kiss it, see if it turns into a prince.
Yeah, right.
Oh, ugh. But no, I think that some of that stuff, like Slender Man it's a movie, and there was no Slender Man reports until the movie came out. Now you take some of them, like don't you guys have that? Yeah.
Problem is, we're not north of the Mason-Dixon. Sorry.
That's
We're
Mary
close.
Fabian's territory. We'll keep it in Mary's area.
No.
Right, I'll have to take care of it.
Keep her busy chasing all that.
Mary's also up in that Chestnut Ridge area.
Oh, really?
West of it,
Yeah.
Yep, and we've heard of that all the way down here. So
a lot of activity in that area. UFO.
Now here's one. As far as UFOs go, there was a certified report from a cop in Maryland.
Certified.
Well, it was on the news and everything. He actually chased a UFO.
Does it on Facebook too?
He shot at it. And I've actually talked to some guys that didn't really work with him, but were in the state police that talked to him, and he passed a polygraph test.
Yeah, I remember.
Yeah,
and they said, "Why did you open fire on it?" And he said, "I didn't know what its intent was."
Yeah, shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah,
people ask me about this UFO stuff all the time. My official policy is I don't have time for UFOs because I'm too busy with what I'm doing. And I would rather be good at one thing than, okay at a lot of things. But this whole UFO thing, I tell people all the time, I think I'd rather have to face off with an 8-foot tall Sasquatch than a 3-foot tall alien.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that just creeps me out. I don't want no part of it. You could have an alien out here just outside of town and call me, and I'll be like, okay, well, I'll let you handle that. Why don't you send me some pictures? And I do get the reports, and every once in a while, you'll have people that'll report a UFO in the same area as these cryptid reports, but I've never had any at the same time where they were there at the same time. But I have had UFO reports coming out of the same spots. But I don't know that I can officially connect the two based on the evidence that I've taken so far. So, but yeah, that whole alien thing scares the crap out of me.
Yeah, we got a live booger sighting right now.
Yep.
Text from Sanders.
Yep.
There was
just on a show with them, right?
Mm-hmm.
Was it Penn State that BFRO just got a report,
Yes.
Gary?
Yep. Yeah,
What?
Penn State University.
They just posted a report?
Yeah, like
For real?
yeah.
Holy crap. Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
That's awesome. I love it. Smacking your hand.
Yeah, they're taking reports away from Oklahoma.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot of respect for them. I mean, they may do some good work, but it seems like
yes, yeah. Well, And there's a lot of arguments that you can make for them and try to defend them a little bit.
Yeah.
I mean, they don't have the staff that they should probably have. I know for a fact they don't have a presence in Oklahoma, so you almost kind of got to give them a pass. I mean, they're not, if they don't have somebody to call you and interview you and stuff like that, then you really can't blame them for not posting reports just because they came in. Because but at the same time, it's a volunteer situation. I doubt that there is a paid person that's sitting there inputting data and doing all this stuff. I mean, as somebody who documents case files and stuff like that, there's a ton of work that goes into the stuff just in Oklahoma. I can't imagine doing the whole country. So I'm gonna have to give them a little bit of grace, and to be honest with you, they've done good work. There's some really good people in the BRFO, but there's also a lot of things that there's a reason why a lot of people have left the BRFO, because of the sanitizing but that's more of a philosophical situation and agree to disagree thing. But I respect some of the work they've done, but at the same time, I would like to see them rise to the occasion and start putting out a better quality of work. You don't have to pay $500 to be considered to do, good field research. They could headhunt without the money, and they could do a better job. They could get some field investigators on the ground without having to go through their whole extortion process. I mean, interview process. So, anyway, there you go.
There's some pretty good reports from them from this state, but there's a guy that's re-releasing a book that he wrote years ago. It's a local guy that he's kind of out of it now, but he's re-releasing it so it's back in print so everybody can get it. It's called the Maryland Bigfoot Digest, and 95 reports right here.
Oh, wow.
Most reports in the state, and the least amount of reports are where I would think there'd be more, which is out in Western Maryland, up against Pennsylvania and West Virginia.
Fewer people.
Yeah.
That's the ticket.
But that's where I found my trackway.
Yeah.
There's
People
a
don't
lot
realize.
of people out there.
But I got screened at here. Here's where I had my up close and personal don't work on deer stands at night experience. So
I used to make fun of people that fell out of deer stands. I don't anymore. We'll just leave it at that.
Oh.
So yeah, it can happen. So
it can happen.
Yes, Mark. Yeah, that's right, Paul. Mark Opsonick. He's re-releasing the book, so I'm going to get my copy as soon as it comes out.
Back to what you were saying about less populated areas. People take a lot of things for granted, but when you get a report that is posted online or somewhere where you have access to it, a lot of things have had to happen just right for that report to get to you. First of all, you got to have a Bigfoot, which that's rare. And then on top of that, you have to have a person being in the same place to see one. So like Oklahoma, a lot of our counties, we've got counties in Oklahoma that have 3,000 people in them. That's not very much. Mm-hmm. And so when you take the scarcity of people, and you compare it to another county that say has 33,000 or 50,000 people in that county, well, the chances are a lot more likely that you're going to have more reports coming out of the county with the more people. It's just a given. Yeah.
Now,
and if you look at it, the data will tell you a story.
I just thought of one that brings the alien Bigfoot thing into the fold together. There was one in PA years ago, and my old milk truck driver actually told me this when he lived in Somerset County. I think it was back in the 80s. There was a report, and it was in the news, like they reported this, that people saw Bigfoot either getting in or getting out of a spaceship. I don't.
Oh, you're talking about that whole Pennsylvania effect thing, yeah. Yeah, I'm not going to say that it doesn't happen, but we've had a lot of UFO reports in Oklahoma that I'm aware of, and none of them involve any type of cryptid activity that I'm aware of. I don't know if that was just something regional that was going on there at the time, but I don't know. That's one of the mysteries, you know. Bigfoot and aliens. I don't know how much of it is just pasta. I couldn't even begin.
Yeah, Mary said getting in a UFO. Okay.
Yeah, there was, the way I understand it, there was a series of reports over a period of time that were similar to that. And I can't remember the name of the guy that was reporting on all
Man, that's. I don't know what to think about that.
that. I'm just going to put that on a shelf until I have more. I'm not gonna. I don't call anybody a liar because I've been called a liar and I know how it feels. So.
And we're also very close to Gettysburg, and there's a lot of reports of Bigfoot
Michelle, yeah.
up there. We're going to be actually. I will be joining Mary and I think Bud and some other people, possibly his wife Angie, if as long as nothing pressing happens here. I will be up there above Gettysburg and Michaud camping with them in April. And I'm also going back to my trackway area that month too. So hopefully I don't have an up close personal experience with something while I'm turkey hunting, but
Yeah, hope to get there. It's a busy weekend for me, but I hope to at least get a day there, meet everybody, and maybe go snooping around a little bit. The show's an interesting place. Very
yeah, if you ever
interesting
get to
place.
come visit the East Coast, Brian, we'll take you to some places.
I've never been further in that direction than the LBL. That was about far enough for me.
LBL is a place I really want to get to, and I want to get down to Alabama and check out the whole state, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I think they're everywhere. I think they're growing. So, I mean, if they've got them in Florida, they definitely got them in Alabama. Alabama has some thick woods. I've drove through there several times, and I've always been impressed. And it looks like a really good place to live. And you take like Louisiana and stuff like that. Oh my gosh! I mean, that's tough to get in and out of.
Yeah, Mary will hook you up in PA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Don't tell my wife. She's been trying to get me to move to Vermont. So
Well, there's reports
stuff up there too. Oh yeah.
And I've bear hunted up in Maine, not far from the Dogmen of Palmyra. If you've ever heard that one,
they're everywhere. You can't keep track of them all. That's the funny thing. If anybody could ever take it all and put it in one place, it'd be overwhelming.
That was a very interesting story. The family bought this property and they moved in, and the husband was a big hunter, and so was the son.
Until this.
Well, here's the thing: the wife wasn't. Well, it gets better. The wife wasn't really keen on having weapons in the house, so he made them put them all in a big crate or whatever and lock them up in the barn. And of course, what happened when they did all that? They started finding out that there was some weird stuff going on around the place, and then the house got surrounded by them one night, and he was he got injured at work or something, so he was, I guess, had a bad leg and couldn't get along very well, and he tried to make it out to the barn, to the arsenal, and got cut off and had to go back to the house, and they had to sit in there all night while these things were prowling around outside.
I bet him and his wife had a Second Amendment conversation.
There you go.
They moved too, I think. But
What was that? Was there a name
that was
of
Palmyra, Maine.
That sounds like a story I need to listen to.
Yeah.
How you spell that? Palmyra.
Palmy. All right, Palmyra.
Yeah, I think something like that.
Dogman encounter.
Did he be like, I'm grabbing my pew pew?
It sounds almost like a Siege of Honobia story, except with dogmen. So
Yeah.
yeah, you never know though. Some of that stuff, it turns out.
Yep.
Like I remember,
Yep.
what was that? Show? It was the Dark Waters, and
Yeah.
he told a story about the siege
Ranch.
Man, I was so pissed when I found
That was
out
Texas, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was so pissed when I found out it was fiction. I mean, I still have not forgiven Dark Waters for that. I mean, he had me so going, and man, I tell you what, I mean, it's such a good story too, and that's the thing.
You ever gotten into any D.A. Roberts books that he writes on fiction?
I don't read fiction. I've got a few.
Well, it's about government groups that hunt cryptids, and I'm starting to think a lot more of that's a lot truer than they lead on, just from the stories I've heard over the years.
I have,
and there's few people in chat that can attest to that.
I'm sure that exists and that it's real. The rumor around Oklahoma is that even some of the tribes have, some of the bigger tribes actually have teams that go out and deal with that kind of stuff. But I do not have any evidence that has shown itself that I consider to be credible for that. It's just kind of one of those stories that I think it just makes a really damn fine story and a great storyline, and it probably sells books and sells YouTube views, and so you just kind of gotta take it for what it's worth. I mean, I don't have a problem with D.A. Roberts. I think he does some good investigative work, but I refuse to put anything fiction into my head.
And he's got some good evidence too.
And I know for a fact that he does do some field work. He's done some stuff. I've followed some of his stuff.
I talk to him on a regular basis. We're usually Facebook chatting a good bit.
I boycott all fiction. If I know it's fiction, I won't even touch it.
Yeah.
So I won't even give somebody a fiction book. I just don't. I think that the fiction has done so much damage to the real work and the real subject matter that it's polluted everybody. It's kind of like, well, let me put it to this way. Like whenever I used to be a Boy Scout leader, and
Wyatt's actually been out with DA.
But when you take kids caving and you take them into a cave, they're all scared to death to go in this cave. There's nothing in the cave, but they've watched so many movies and they've been programmed to think that there's some kind of horrible monster inside every cave. But so it messes with your head, and I just don't. I mean, I guess a certain percentage of it is harmless, but I think that's just a personal decision that people need to make. I mean, do you want to, take this stuff seriously and do the research, or do you want to be entertained? And I'll be honest with you, if you want to be entertained, there's cooler stuff out there than Bigfoot. I mean, I don't know. I kind of like that.
I enjoy a lot of that stuff, but you got to keep it in a different box. And
yeah, And how do you do that over a period of years? I can't do that. It all mushes in, you know. I mean, I'm not capable of that. You know, my brain is mushy as it is. You
I
know,
will
so
say that I'm glad I have a thermal.
Yeah,
that tells a lot. Yeah,
one big happy family. And what the hell? What is it? You know,
yeah.
what was it?
And what kind of thermal do you use now?
Jerry and I both have the same ones. We have the
I can't
TM
even remember.
160 from
Yeah,
AGM.
AGM. Yeah.
They're pretty affordable. They're probably 300 brand new. You can get them used off of B&H Photo. They have them sometimes for less than that.
I
They
got mine for
record.
150, and it looks brand new, untouched.
Wow,
Even
that's
the
Yeah, I
box,
think I paid 260 for
good
mine,
deal.
and it's
Hmm,
dirt cheap.
okay.
I use it to
Oh,
track deer.
yeah.
If I got
Mhm.
one I'm having trouble blood trailing, it takes me
Uh-huh.
right to it.
I've seen those. Those are the little handheld
Yeah.
binoculars, right? And they record and everything.
Yep. You can set them to send to your phone.
Huh.
I haven't
I've
done
been
that yet.
using the ones that go into my phone, and you know, like the T2 Infrared Pro. I like it. It's got really good quality and
A
everything.
lot of
Except,
people like that, like them.
yeah, well, it's handy, but the T2 Pro, the problem with it is you can't. It's almost like it's fixed with the 2.5 power on it, and so you can't really film anything close up. And but you know, if it's far away, you're good. But anything that is close, you know, it's like takes up all of the screen, and it kind of sucks. Before that, I used the Seek model, and I put it in there, and it worked, and it worked for the price was right. Hell, I gave $75 for it for a guy off of Facebook Marketplace. So that was a win, and it
Hey,
served me pretty well.
you
But
don't have to go expensive to build your arsenal.
oh
No,
no.
I
I
know. Jerry and I
all
have
of
all the
my
same
audio,
equipment, and it hasn't broke the bank on us.
yeah, but yeah, all of my audio recorders except for one I bought off Facebook Marketplace. Man, I don't hell
I
I'm a
bought some
teacher,
good
man.
ones off of Amazon cheap. I mean,
You know, look at the used or the refurbished.
yeah,
You
exactly.
know, you can get that. That's what my laptop is. I mean, it's
The one
refurbished.
I'm working on
Yeah.
right here, when we started doing the podcast last year,
Yeah,
I bought this and I paid less than 300 probably for it. I mean,
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's a good. All I do is pretty much this on it, and that's you
Mhm.
know,
Refurb's running all this right now.
yeah.
Yeah,
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 man.
And
Hey,
it's
I'm a
probably
believer.
yep.
six or
And that's a
seven
good
years old.
price, man. Those
Yeah.
prices are like
Yeah.
the night vision, which the thermals to me are way better than the night vision, personally, I think. But
Oh, I wouldn't even use a night vision one.
I have a night vision I got for. It
David's
works
got a
really
night
good, but
vision.
I'll tell you that thing will blind you, man. My
it's
goodness,
blinding.
it's very
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I,
I'll tell you what I would like to have
wasn't even
is
$100.
I would like to have a thermal that is not a handheld one. Something that because
Like goggles or something,
I don't know
or like
exactly what I
binoculars.
want. No, I want something that I don't have to hold in my hand, something that's hands free, because it seems like when you got something in your hand, that the Sasquatch will back off another 50 yards. It's like when you're empty handed, that looks like you're weaponless, and I think they'll come in closer. It's the same thing with, you know, people I think that carry long guns out in the field. I think they're going to back even further away from you.
Yeah,
But that's why my
yeah.
team we have long guns, but they're in the vehicles, and we just carry pistols. And most of the time, you know, it's kind of, you know, we don't carry them on our hip like a lot of guys. We use chest raids and stuff. So yeah, something
It's
like
blended
that.
in with all of your equipment and everything,
It
basically.
blends in, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Because I've
I'm
watched you
looking for
guys
something.
that one video you were wearing them, and you don't really. It doesn't really stand out, and I've seen a lot of people that do that, and it doesn't really.
Yeah. So it has a lot of advantages wearing a chest rig. The ones that we use are Condor chest rigs off Amazon. They are cheap. Okay. I honestly don't know. I originally bought it because I carry a Glock 10 millimeter long slide model. Okay. So it's got the long barrel. I was looking at getting one of those Kydex that mount right here on your chest because I got sick and tired of this thing pulling my pants down while I'm walking through the woods. And, because it always is like, constantly, hillbilly pulling your britches up. And I'm still not old enough that I think I can pull off the suspenders, And so I was fighting that, and then I saw that, and I was like, man, do I really want to go all tacked out and look G.I. Joe and stuff? And so finally I thought, well, you know what? The price is right on these things. I'm going to buy the holster, the Velcro fits, one size fits all pistol, and I'm going to buy a chest rig. I got that thing in the mail and I put it all together. And I mean, I was walking around the house carrying my gun. My wife was like, what in the hell? I was like, it's like you don't even know you're carrying it. I mean, it's like, and like my buddy Eric, one of the guys on my team, he carries a 50 Desert Eagle.
I saw that. It doesn't hide very well in his outfit.
I mean, that thing weighs like 7 pounds, man. It's literally twice as heavy as my long slide Glock, and I've got more bullets than he's got, but when you carry him right here in your chest, he's a big guy. He's a couple inches taller than me, yeah. But when you carry it right here in the center, it's like your center of gravity doesn't change. It helps when you're walking through woods, you're walking under stuff. It doesn't get caught on every tree branch or thorny vine that you're walking by when you're walking through the woods. It's just right there. We can carry our radios right here. Sometimes I have a knife, sometimes I don't. We've got evidence collection kits, and I've usually got a pouch for my cell phone.
And you guys got everything.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that you really need to carry. And we've got the Eric and I have the water bladder kit for the back of it. But that whole rig thing with all the pouches and everything, I don't have $100 in that.
Yeah.
And I use my YouTube money. So my Red Dirt Cryptids YouTube money is not my money. I spend it on Red Dirt Cryptids. So I buy the guy's gear. All of those chest rigs and everything, YouTube paid for that. I just got done making them these molly pouches, and I made these homemade evidence collection pouches for everything. Everything's vacuum
Investigating
sealed.
on a budget. I love it.
Man, you got to. I'm still waiting on that Trump money to kick in. I mean, I haven't seen a single check from Trump yet. So, but one of these days, I mean, hell, I might vote Democrat if they decide they want to fund me. I mean, I'm about bad as a politician, So, but if somebody, we're still waiting. But yeah, everything's on a budget. Everything is on a budget. And
hey, Brian, put the book up again so we can show that to everybody.
Yeah.
All right, that's it. If you can get the glare.
Hold on. Yeah, let me put you up there on solo layout. There we
go.
There we go.
Look at that. No wonder. Yeah, that's me. If you can't find it from Oklahoma Cryptozoology 101, you can punch in my name. You'll find it. You can find me on YouTube, TikTok, LinkedIn. I think I've even got an Instagram presence, although I don't understand Instagram and why anybody would use it, but I occasionally post stuff on there.
It's no fun.
I think I'm on
everybody else.
So, but we're easy to find. And like I said, our primary focus is Oklahoma and the surrounding areas around Oklahoma and Kansas. But it's not because I don't care and I'm not interested. It's because, my God, I just don't have time. I'm just one guy doing all the paperwork. So anyway, and I do have, and my guys on my team, they're real good for field work, but trying to get them to do paperwork is, they mean well, but when you start breaking out the paperwork, they're like, ooh, no. So
Yeah, we don't around here. You can't really get away with carrying pistols very much unless you get CCWs.
Oh, no.
It's Maryland's just a we don't.
yeah, I've heard as much. Yeah,
But if
down here they
I'm
give
around the
you one for
farm,
your
if
birthday.
I'm looking around stuff around here, or I'm somewhere on my friends' properties where I can get away with it, I at least have my long gun in the truck or something, just in the case that things go south.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know. Everybody's different, and
Jerry,
everybody's
Jerry's
got their.
Jerry's got bear spray in the RV. He's got a
Oh, yeah.
bunch of it.
That's probably the most effective thing you could carry, really.
Well, I actually had to use some bear spray the other day. I told you about my ferocious Pomeranian dogs, right? So I've got this one that thinks that he's about 160 pounds, and he started a fight with a German Shepherd
Oh
that
Lord!
jumped the fence and came over and started whipping his ass. Well, I happened to have some bear spray, and that dog would not go back in his yard, and he was basically trying to get into my house to kill my little 6-pound dog. And so I bear sprayed his ass.
Yep.
And you know what? He acted like it didn't even bother him.
Really?
Really.
Wow.
Wow.
I had to spray him in the face like 4 or 5 times, like directly. Hell, I got overspray on me and in my mouth.
Oh God!
I had to spray him like 4 or 5 times before he finally decided it was time to go. And he did so in a very nonchalant manner. So I think I'll stick to my 10 millimeter thing.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Because that's like, that's just, he acted like it was mildly offensive. So I don't know, maybe I got some cheap stuff. I'm not
Something.
I use
not-
that. I
That
carry
stuff's usually
2
pretty
cans
cheap.
of that Frontier Grizzly spray.
Yeah, I'm not an expert on it. We don't, as you can imagine, we don't need a whole lot of that in Oklahoma. We do have a few black bears, but they're very rare, few and far
Much like
between.
Maryland. Maryland, we don't really have.
Not a lot, but there was a
Now-
time here we didn't have any. You had to go to Western
Now
Maryland.
they're coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You don't know.
It happens. As a matter of fact, there's been a few of them that have come up and headed north through Oklahoma on the east side. And there's been reports in southern Kansas of people
Interesting.
seeing black bears in Kansas. So I don't know. We have a lady that I do research with occasionally. Her name is Jody Chisholm, and she had a black bear on her porch the other day. She lives in northeastern Oklahoma. So she was sending us videos of it.
It gets bad if people start feeding them.
Yeah, she knows better.
Yeah.
There was a guy up in I don't know if I told you this, Jerry, but up in Stewartstown a few years back, I knew the guy that helped with the game commission removing it, and he said one of the local, uppity ups, town whatevers was feeding this thing off his back porch, and it was like a 400-pounder. There, all of his friends and stuff were coming over. They were feeding it marshmallows off the deck. What do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, it's just a matter of time.
And not to mention the fact you're feeding it marshmallows. The amount of sugar they're giving that thing.
You got bears with diabetes.
Well, it's not good for them.
Probably not.
Even though that's what they bait most bait stations with is, donuts and junk food. But most of those bears are being harvested. But they released this bear and sent it up to the state game lands, and some off-duty cop got caught poaching it. Because he knew where they released it.
Well, I'm just glad they're not really a problem where I'm at right now. So,
yeah.
But I would say there's probably a lot of uninformed Oklahomans who probably would start feeding it because they don't know any better.
Be careful what you wish for.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I don't want them. We got enough hogs as it is. So
David doesn't even have to feed them. They come right up to his place because the apple orchard out back. They're there all the time.
Yeah, they're here all the time during the fall, like when the fruit's on, late summer, fall. Yeah,
Yeah.
Making friends. There you go.
yeah. I got charged twice by a sow with a cub this last elk season, not here at my place, and all I had was a longbow. I know there's like Greg. Some people are gonna be like,
he
"Yeah,
forgot his sidearm.
yeah." I thought for sure I was gonna have to try for a frontal with her running at me, and she charged twice and huffing and stomping the ground and stuff, but she stopped short both times.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not the shot I would want to take. No.
I thought I was gonna have to put the lights out.
Yeah. I shot a coyote like that once. That was a hell of a deal. The arrow went clean through the thing, and we found it. Never found the coyote. It ran off.
Wow.
Man,
Must have literally eviscerated it. Went in right here. I'm assuming it came out the rear end somewhere. There was blood all up and down the arrow. It was gross.
that's weird.
Yep. And he ran off, and we never found it. So
Are you sure he run off? What may have came along?
maybe the Sasquatch reckon. Or
They're like, oh, look, he gave us a free meal.
Yeah.
That probably happens more than we realize. So, oh,
Well, it's been an
Yeah,
awesome night.
Absolutely.
oh my gosh! Look at that clock. Look at 2 hours.
Yeah, I know, and I gotta go get a calf out of the pasture and put it in the pen, and then I gotta get up at 4 to go
Oh
milk.
my God.
He's on that easy Central Time. It's only 9:53 there. It's almost 11 o'clock.
Y'all in that section, you guys get off easy. And David,
David's
what is
even
it right
even
now,
better.
David?
It's almost 8.
Oh man.
If you go to River's side of the world, it's 14 hours ahead. So
Yeah.
No.
hopefully
Not
River.
violent. Should be-
Hopefully River's all right. I'll send him a message and
Yeah, and Gary, keep your thoughts and
And
prayers
Gary.
up for Gary Spikes. For sure.
and everybody, moment of silence.
What's wrong
for
with
Jeff
Gary
Townsend.
Spikes?
Jeff Townsend passed, and he did a lot of
That was
stuff with
tough.
Gary Arnold.
Good guys. All of them are good guys. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
River's eating breakfast. Yeah. Well, River's recouping.
Yeah, River's in the hospital.
Little
Yeah.
tore up. So
And Dee Dee will be on Thursday having her knee surgery, so she would appreciate any prayers by you guys for that.
Oh, and
All
one
the
more
way.
thing. I am going to be on Within the Cauldron tomorrow night talking about cryptids. So
and
I'll send the link out for that.
what time is that?
I think it's 8:00.
Eastern
It's
Sunday.
time.
That's Eastern. Eastern.
Easter time.
Oh, I got a show tomorrow night at 8:00. Oh wow.
That's right. Jerry actually has he's got his business show tomorrow.
When everything lines up, I could have 4 a week.
Yeah.
Just-
Between this,
Crazy.
your regular pulling channel and the antiques,
Yeah.
and then if we do beards and boogers,
Yeah. Maybe Beers and Boogers thinking Sunday night. We'll see. We haven't had that in a couple weeks.
maybe we can get Dog to join us because he might be available Sunday night.
That's fine.
Because Tuesdays are kind of crazy for him because he's got to go pick his wife up from work.
I
and
do
it's-
that almost
They
every
don't
day.
get back to him as 9
Ain't
o'clock.
that big of a deal. That's hilarious. Okay, yeah, we'll figure something out. Like I say, I'm not sure yet. But
Yeah, like Pyro just said, ziplining with cryptids.
yeah, absolutely.
We'll fill you in on the story on that, Brian. I was a bit of well, we can tell it later.
Backstage. We'll leave it at that. Backstage, real quick. But also, Chad.
our
Chad
friend
Chad
Chad.
Black.
Blackie.
The Oddcast podcast will be coming out, I believe, in April. So it's coming out here soon
And
next month.
Blackie's gonna be
finally.
doing everything.
And he's been doing a lot of research and stuff, and it's going to be on a multitude of things within the cryptid and whatever. And also, Adam has got everything purchased, set up, ready to go to start his live podcast. And he's actually looking for people to come on his show. So
Cryptid Fan 94.
Cryptid Fan 94.
Yep.
And
he's a cool guy. I like him.
Absolutely. He is not afraid to jump down any rabbit holes. So.
Yeah.
No, he is
As
not.
I always say, he's going to have
running short of rabbit holes.
yeah. Both those guys are going to do a hell of a job on their podcast for sure. And, looking forward to both them guys getting off the ground and going. So
gonna be awesome.
Again, Chad, let me know when you're ready. I'll have to take care of that live stuff. So, but anyway, again, prayers to all of our Bigfoot family. That's unfortunately we lost Jeff Townsend and Rivers injured, and
Christy Leslie passed recently. And,
Christy, and it's who else did I not mention? Oh,
Gary
Spikes. Man, I'll tell you what, I was lost without Gary here.
And Gary is one of the guys that's usually running, things in the chat room.
Yep.
And well, Gary mods for like
everybody,
40 different podcasts.
Everybody.
I think he's from Texas, isn't he?
He's from Oklahoma, I think.
Is he?
Yeah.
Sure.
Pretty sure.
Maybe it's his son that lives in Texas.
Could be.
Gary Spikes. He's either in Oklahoma or Kansas. He's somewhere in that. Pretty sure it's Oklahoma. Somebody will correct me on that.
You're right, and I think the son is in Texas. Correct. Yeah.
Yeah.
But anyway, Brian, by all means, thank you very much for being here, and get over there and check out his channel, Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations, on YouTube, and he's got a podcast I see and some other things, but I'm going to dig in and start watching a lot of the stuff on his channel. So Oklahoma really just blows my mind how busy.
You ever going to start doing lives, Brian? Probably not.
It usually takes away from my field work.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Sure.
We've discussed it. We have gone live from the field a couple of times. Most of the time, the places that we go, it's like we don't have signal. So,
yeah, it's like everybody tries to do a live at LBL. That never really turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, they hard for cell service too. So.
Yeah, it depends. I've got AT&T now, so I'm doing a little bit better. But
I do too, and I've noticed this used to be huge Verizon area here, but I'll tell you what, I went over to AT&T, and it's pretty damn good. I was pretty impressed. So.
Yeah, we were the last time we were down in our area we call 7A, which is in the Ouachita National Forest.
Ooh,
we were streaming YouTube videos of Fluffy, the comedian guy, and we were sitting out there.
Yeah, I love that guy.
I was just like, it was pouring rain on us, so we were hiding under a tarp watching Fluffy, and it was so funny. I thought, well, I can't believe we're getting signal, let alone we're not buffering or nothing. It was crazy.
There you go, Jeff.
Ooh.
That's why the cell phones don't work at LBL.
Yeah.
You can have them spirit boxes.
Yeah.
So, anyway, Brian, again, thank you.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. It's great meeting you and great information out of Oklahoma. We really appreciate all that.
Heck yeah.
And like I said, again, Red Dirt Cryptid Investigations over on YouTube. Get over there and check it out, guys. Show them some love.
Get backstage for a minute, and then we'll.
Yep.
I'll hang around for a minute. Yeah.
Yep. Get out of here and.
Thanks, guys.
Here on the East Coast, so absolutely. Mr. Blaylock, see you backstage. Jeffrey.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, everybody.
Have a good
night, footers.